Good morning. I will call to order the June 22nd, 2023 Clackamas County Board of Commissioners business meeting. Before I go to Gary Schmidt, I have something I want to play.
Are we having a Zen?
I think I'll go outside for a while.
Wow.
Yeah.
Happy Youth Budget Cycle.
Okay. We have a fantastic budget we're going to pass today. Largest budget practically in the history of Clackamas County, and everybody is a winner. Gary, please call the roll.
Thank you, Chair Smith. First, our staff support today, County Council Stephen Madcore, Clerk to the Board Tony Marinick. Commissioner Savas is on his way and will be here shortly. Roll call, Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Commissioner West.
Here.
Commissioner Shull.
Here.
Chair Smith.
Here, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. We are holding this meeting in person and virtually. If you joined us via Zoom for this meeting and are interested in providing public comment, we will prompt you how to do that when the time is right. I would ask that folks providing public comment keep their comments related to the hearing at hand. We have many hearings today. And then general public comment will be taken at the usual allotted time. I would like to remind all participants, including staff, all elected officials, and members of the public that Robert's Rules of Orders will be enforced in this business meeting. We have a large number of public hearings today, and this board will work through them as quickly as we can, providing an appropriate amount of time for public comment for each hearing. We'll take a recess at noon for lunch and may take breaks as needed throughout the meeting, but we will intend to continue this meeting until all the work is done today. We welcome your opinions and look forward to your polite participation. Before we get to the public hearings, the board will address some routine business through our consent agenda process. Gary.
Yes, thank you, Chair Smith. We will start with consent agenda for the general county first. Tony, would you please read the consent agenda?
Elected officials, item 1, approval of previous business meeting minutes for the Board of County Commissioners. County Council, item 1, approval of a resolution adopting changed fees for Clackamas County for fiscal year 2023-2024. Fiscal impact is estimated at $230,640 in additional revenues. No county general funds are involved. Health, Housing, Human Services, item 1, ratification of a board order delegating authority to the county administrator to accept a non-competitive award from Oregon Housing and Community Services for mediation services for manufactured marina and floating home communities. Agreement value is up to $400,000 for 2 years. Funding is through the Oregon Housing and Community Services Department. No county general funds are involved. Transportation and Development, item 1, approval of a contract with K&L Industries Incorporated for the River Grove paving project. Total value is $168,236. Funding through the County Road Fund and $100,000 funded through the City of River Grove. No county general funds are involved. Item 2, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Happy Valley relating to Southeast Robert Avenue improvements. No fiscal impact. No county general funds are involved. Item 3, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Estacada related to road maintenance, permitting authority, and jurisdictional transfer of a portion of South Eagle Creek Road. Agreement value is $199,072. Funding is through the Community Road Fund. No county general funds are involved. Item 4, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Estacada related to road maintenance, permitting authority, and jurisdictional transfer of a portion of South River Mill Road. Total value, $9,303. Funding through the Community Road Fund. No county general funds are involved. Item 5, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Wilsonville to transfer portions of Southwest Frog Pond Lane and Southwest Stafford Road. Total value of $45,446. Funding through the Community Road Fund. No county general funds are involved. Item 6, approval of a supplemental project agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation for the Clackamas County Regional Freight Intelligent Transportation System Project Phase 2B. Agreement value is $1,159,428, funding through federal grant and county road fund. No county general funds are involved. Item 7, approval of a board order adopting solid waste management fee increases. Estimated additional revenue from franchisee fees is $66,000 to $105,000. No county general funds are involved. Item 8, approval of Amendment 1 modifying terms of a grant agreement with the State of Oregon to provide funding for the construction of the Gladstone Library. Grant value remains at $500,000. Funding through the State of Oregon American Rescue Plan Act Coronavirus State Fiscal Recovery Fund. No county general funds are involved. Item 9, approval of Amendment 1 modifying terms of a grant agreement with the State of Oregon to provide funding for the construction of the Oak Lodge Library. Grant value remains at $750,000. Funding through the State of Oregon American Rescue Plan Act Coronavirus State Fiscal Recovery Fund. No county general funds are involved. Madam Chair, that concludes the list.
Thank you, Tony. Does any commissioner wish to remove anything off this consent agenda? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Commissioner West has moved we approve the consent agenda as read, and Commissioner Schrader has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Tony, please call the poll.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Schull,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. I will now recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as a Water Environment Service Board of Directors.
Next is the consent agenda for Water Environment Services. Tony, would you please read the consent agenda?
Two items. Item 1, approval of Amendment Number 2, extending duration and increasing funding to a contract with Metro Presort Incorporated for bill printing and mailing services. Amendment value is $385,000 for 2 years, increasing contract value to $1,610,000 for 7 years. Funding is through Water Environment Services, Sanitary Sewer, and Surface Water Operating Funds. No county general funds are involved. Item 2, approval of an amendment extending duration, modifying scope of work, and increasing funding to a contract with Parametrics Incorporated for consulting services for the Three Creeks Floodplain Enhancement Project. Amendment value is $750,735.01 for 1.5 years, increasing total contract value to $1,548,171.40 for 6 years. Funding through Water Environment Services, Surface Water Construction Fund. No county general funds are involved.
Thank you, Tony. Does any commissioner wish to remove anything from this consent agenda? See none, I'll accept a motion.
I move for approval of the Water Environment Services consent agenda.
I'll second.
Commissioner Schull has moved for approval of the Water Environment Services consent agenda, and Commissioner West has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, please call the poll.
Director West,
Aye.
Director Schrader,
Aye.
Director Schull,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. I will now adjourn as a Water Environment Services Board and convene as a Library Service District Board of Directors. Gary, what's next?
Next is the consent agenda for the Library Service District. Tony, would you please read the consent agenda?
Library Service District 1 item, approval of a supplemental budget resolution for a less than 10% adjustment for the Clackamas County Library Service District for fiscal year 2022-2023. Fiscal impact is an increase in appropriations of $600,000. Funding is through increased beginning fund balance, taxes and penalties and interest. No county general funds are involved.
Thank you, Tony. Does any commissioner wish to remove anything off this consent agenda? I will entertain a motion.
Chair, I move that we approve the Library Service District consent agenda as read.
Second.
Director West has moved we approve the Library Service District consent agenda, and Commissioner Director Schrader has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, please take the poll, please.
Director Schrader,
Aye.
Director West,
Aye.
Director Shull,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much. I will now adjourn as the Library Service District and convene as a Housing Authority of Clackamas County Commissioners.
Thank you, Chair Smith. Now begins the budget process. There will be 12 public hearings for 8 service districts and the county general budget. This first one is the Housing Authority of Clackamas County. Joining you online is Housing Commissioner Ann Leenstra. Commissioner Leenstra, are you there?
I'm here.
She said, yeah, we heard you. We'll change the volume in the room. Thank you, Commissioner Leenstra, for being here. This is public hearing, item 1, adoption of a resolution adopting and appropriating funds for the fiscal year 2023-2024. Budget for the Housing Authority of Clackamas County. Budget is $87 million, $87,032,700, with appropriations totaling $87,032,700. Funding is through rental incomes, metro bond funds, federal and state grants, and other revenue sources. No county general funds are involved. Elizabeth Comfort, Finance Director, and Sandra Montoya, Budget Manager, will present. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. Sandra Montoya, Budget Manager. On May 22nd of 2023, so just a month ago, the Housing Authority of Clackamas County's Budget Committee approved appropriations of $87,032,700. And today, staff is recommending that the board hold a public hearing and consider the adoption of a budget in that same amount. So no changes are recommended between what was approved on May 22nd and today.
Is that it? Do the commissioners have any qualifying questions on this particular budget? I will now open the meeting for public testimony. I will take in-person testimony first on the housing budget. Housing Authority of Clackamas County. Do we have somebody in here? Les Poole, please come forward. State your name, your area of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Good morning, commissioners and staff. I've lived in the county for over 30 years and have a lot of experience with land use and transportation and contracting. If you need someone to write software, I'm not your guy, but I'm good at the other stuff. In my years here, I've seen the ups and downs of affordable housing, subsidized housing, and I'm not here to oppose this budget, but I have a couple of observations and a couple of quick thoughts. One is $87 million is a lot of money. And we hear over and over that the county isn't doing anything. You're not doing anything, Chair Smith. You're not doing anything, Mr. West. Well, certainly you are. You folks are spending a lot of money, addressing a lot of problems, and when it comes to the housing issue, I have a concern about accountability and how we do business, and I would encourage that extra effort goes into seeing and paying close attention to how this money is spent. I point no further than the fiasco at Tukwila, the affordable project that was incredibly unaffordable. It was a design build, and so I'm just here not to rehash the past or oppose the budget, but to deliver a message that folks are really tapped out, and we've got more and more people that are falling through cracks, and we can't continue on the same path. So by all means, let's move this budget forward. But I would again encourage you to have language or a policy where we have more accountability for some of the projects that are out there. And I don't know who arranged this hearing first, but I appreciate it because I got to speak and now I need to go. Thank you much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to testify on this particular housing budget? Seeing none. Tony, is there anyone on Zoom who would like to testify on the housing budget?
I would ask if you would like to testify on the Housing Authority budget, please use the raise hand feature and I will call on you in the order received. Madam Chair, I do not have any hands raised.
I will now close the hearing on this particular topic and ask Commissioners, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
I move we approve the consent agenda and the budget as approved.
Yes, thank you very much, Ann Leenstra. We are going to read the language off of our script here. Commissioner West?
Sure, thank you. I move we approve the resolution adopting a budget in the amount of $87,032,700 and appropriating funds in the amount of $87,032,700 for the fiscal year of 2023 through 2024 for the Housing Authority of Clackamas County.
Second.
Commissioner West has moved that we approve the resolution adopting the budget in the amount of $87,032,700 and appropriating funds in the amount of $87,032,700 for the fiscal year 2023-24 for the Housing Authority of Clackamas County, and Commissioner Schrader has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, please take the poll.
Commissioner Leenstra,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schull,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much, Ann Leenstra, for joining us today.
You're welcome.
Motion passes 6-0.
6-0, correct.
I stand corrected, thank you. Thank you, Ann. I will now adjourn as a Housing Authority Board and reconvene as a Board of County Commissioners.
Next is the two public hearings for the general county budget. The first hearing is a routine budget adjustment that we call a supplemental budget for the current fiscal year, which we are required to hold a public hearing for because it's greater than a 10% change. So I'll ask those of the public. The first hearing is not the general county budget, so if you are speaking to the general county budget, please wait for the next hearing. So the first public hearing is approval of a supplemental budget resolution for a greater than 10% adjustment for fiscal year 2022-2023. Fiscal impact is a net decrease in appropriations of $904,632. Funding includes beginning fund balance, federal and state grants, charge for services, revenue from bonds and other debts, and $960,000 in budgeted county general funds. Sandra Montoya, Elizabeth Comfort, Finance Director, will present this one.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. I'm Elizabeth Comfort, Finance Director for Clackamas County. Oregon budget law found in ORS 294 requires a supplemental budget for any change in fund or department if it exceeds our budgeted levels. Before you today is a supplemental budget request for 10 items with a total budget reduction of $904,632. While most amendments increase our budget appropriation, this request includes a $6 million decrease for the planned library loan that did not materialize this fiscal year. Details are shown in number 6 of the resolution. We propose this change for improving the budget records. So we want to remove that. So when we look back at budgets in the past, we want to see that that's not there. Items 3, 4, and 5, totaling $1.1 million, relate to the Sheriff's Office, creating 2 new funds. Inmate Welfare Special Fund 207 for $213,000, and then the Forfeitures New Fund 209 for $875,000. The corresponding revenue and expense authority in this fiscal year will be moved out of General Fund 100 from the Sheriff's Office Department and into the new funds to be reflected in this current year. This is a cleanup just of the housekeeping for recognizing these 2 fund and what they capture from the Sheriff's Office, so we can collect interest on them and account for them separately. The remaining budget changes increase the budget authority across 5 other funds, and they include items number 1, 2, and 6. We're moving contingency funds of $960,000 for general fund support to county administration for the project turnkey expense, library network for construction project, and technology services for phone costs. Number 7, for $2.7 million, relates to the H3S Fund 240, recognizing additional grant revenue and increasing their expense for emergency hotel services and rent assistance. Number 8, for $110,000 relates to technology services, recognizing general fund support and increasing the operating expenses for those higher than anticipated county phone costs. Number 9 is $100,000, and it relates to the Risk Management Claims Fund, and it recognizes additional charges for service and increasing operating expenses due to higher claims cost. Number 10, the final, is for $500,000. It relates to Fleet Management Fund, adjusting the revenue and increasing operating expenses due to higher fuel costs. That completes the
Thank you.
supplemental.
Do commissioners have questions or comments? Commissioner Scholl?
Yes, Elizabeth Comfort, is this going to be the last supplemental budget for FY '22-23?
Yeah, great question. So we have 4 each year as needed, and this is our 4th and final one for this fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I will now open the meeting for public testimony. I will take in-person testimony first on the supplemental budget only that was just presented. Seeing no one in the room, Tony, do we have anyone online who would like to speak to the supplemental budget only?
If you would like to testify on the supplemental budget, please use the raise hand feature, and I will call on you in the order received. Madam Chair, I do not have any hands raised.
Thank you. I will now close the public hearing and ask if there are any more questions from commissioners. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move for approval of the supplemental budget resolution for a greater than 10% adjustment for the fiscal year 2022 through 2023.
Second.
Commissioner Scholl has moved for the approval of the supplemental budget resolution for a greater than 10% adjustment for fiscal year 2022-2023. Commissioner Schrader has seconded the motion. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, Tony, please take the poll.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schull,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Gary, what's next?
The next public hearing, this is the general county budget now. Approval of a resolution adopting and appropriating funds for fiscal year 2023-2024, budget and imposing and categorizing a property tax for tax year 2023-2024. Budget is $1,266,733,717 with appropriations totaling $1,144,331,337. Funding is through beginning fund balance, taxes, federal and state funds, charges, fees, fines, and assessments, revenue from bonds and other debts, and other revenues. Sandra Montoya, Budget Manager, will present.
Good morning again. So now Clackamas County, on May 24th, the Clackamas County Budget Committee approved a fiscal year 23-24 total budget of $1,266,794,474 and appropriations of $1,144,391 and $391,844. And the difference between total budget is all budget, all encompassing, and appropriations is what's spendable. So that's why we always give you 2 numbers, because there's 2 portions of it. Since that time, so since the approval on May 24th, 2 changes have come about. One of those is the reduction in equity, diversity, and inclusion program from the general fund that we spoke about on that May 24th meeting. And if you remember, County Administrator Schmidt said, we will bring it back. So now what you are seeing is in this budget, we have gone ahead and reduced it, and that is the change that you're seeing. And budget law requires us to identify what the Budget Committee approved and what you will see, or what we're proposing as the adopted. So that's why you're seeing 2 different numbers. So we have, again, what was approved on May 24th and what we're asking you to approve today.
I'm going to interrupt you, Sandra. So that's $60,000 of general fund, which I removed from that program.
Correct.
So it's $60,000.
Correct. So that means that the EDI budget is coming solely from the cost allocations that it is distributing across all of the county. So no general fund support is being taken for EDI. The other two is the creation of the two new funds. Our Director, Elizabeth Comfort, mentioned that in the supplemental budget. And that's for the two new funds for the Sheriff's Office, Fund 207 and 209. That's the Inmate Welfare Fund and the Asset Forfeiture Fund. Those were created at the very end of this current year, but they were not put in the 23-24 budget because we hadn't created them at that point. Now we're asking your permission and approval to create those two funds and give it spending authority in fiscal year 23-24. That change doesn't have any budget impact because they're the same dollars. We're just moving them from the general fund spending them to now these two new funds spending them. So they have no dollar impact on the total budget. It's just what fund has permission to expend. So with that, we have a new total budget that's in the resolution, and we are asking that you hold a public hearing and consider adoption of a fiscal year 23-24 budget with changes and the new total, so a new total budget of $1,266,733,717. And let me say that again, because I think I messed that up. $1,266,733,717. Appropriations, so the spending portion is $1,144,331,087. We're also requesting that you impose tax levies. We have permanent tax levies of 2.004 at 2, that's dollars per thousand of assessed value in the unincorporated areas, a permanent tax rate of $2.9766 per thousand in the unincorporated areas, a local option tax rate of $0.3680 per 1,000 of assessed value. And last but not least is the general obligation bond debt service of $5,559,000. And the last piece is the categorization of the taxes. And for that, we have the permanent rates are all in the general government limitation. So this is ORS 294 requires this, that we categorize the taxes. The permanent tax rates that I read off are part of the general government limitations, and the general obligation debt service is excluded from the property tax limitations. That's all.
Quite the presentation. We will now open it up to commissioners' questions and comments. Commissioner West, you're up first.
So just for clarity, this is my first time doing this with the county. So just a little clarity. I know that the budget committee, we wanted to make sure that we had funding and we're protecting the H3S program that dealt specifically with kids that were vulnerable in traumatic situations. Was that adjustment made here? Because I heard you speak to like how the allocated costs were now with EDI department, and that was a shift in adjustments there. But I didn't quite know where we will see that adjustment that we made as a budget committee. Could you speak to that?
Yes, so the Children of Incarcerated Parents, that was the program that was being discussed on May 23rd and 24th. That program will now have funding for 2 years through the ARPA funding. So
Okay.
And that program, you're not seeing any change for it because we have a fund dedicated for the ARPA spending. The spending is staying within that fund, so there's no need to do any special call out of it.
Okay.
But it is being funded, and so thank you for that, because I think that is important for the audience to know.
So we wouldn't see an adjustment like we saw. It's not an allocated cost. It's not coming from it is being funded through a different source. So is it just kind of like, why wouldn't we see it? I'm not clear why.
So let me see if I can explain. Think about it like in your own personal budget.
Okay.
If you spent money for gas instead of insurance,
Got it.
It's still for your vehicle, and it's still within your own household budget.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't need to call out or have any special permission. Similarly, we call it Fund 230, that is the ARPA fund. That is the fund that will now be funding the children of incarcerated parents for 2 years. But because that fund will spend that money, it's just for a different purpose, it's now designated for a purpose, we don't have to do a special call out in budget law.
Okay. And this is our total county budget we're talking about, right? This is general fund, this is everything.
This is
This is
everybody,
this is the big beast that we went over just a few weeks ago, last month. I just want to for the record, state that there's been a lot of questions and concerns around how we might fund or handle the equity, diversity, and inclusion as a whole as a county. And there was some conversations around that during the budget committee. So I want to say that there's been a promise made to have more of a policy discussion regarding that in July. And I fully support that robust conversation as we provided oversight as a commission on that aspect of the county and how those, not only just the funds are used, but what are the policies, what are the outcomes, are we getting the outcomes that we desire, and then addressing it further separately from this budget. I'm very supportive of this budget. I'll be voting yes on this in a few moments with the understanding, and so the public knows that we will have a more in-depth conversation as a county on the EDI topic. And that's already on the calendar. It's already been promised to be done. It was tabled by Chair Smith in the Budget Committee. She decided to bring it back for us commissioners to discuss further. That's happening. And with that knowledge, I am very supportive moving forward with this budget, which I think is, for me, all about public safety and what we are doing to prioritize public safety in Clackamas County. Chair Smith, I think you told me in my office this morning, it's the largest allotment towards public safety funds in the history of the county. And it is a value statement for us. Where we put our money is a value statement and what we prioritize. And I think that this budget does that. And I'm happy and pleased with the work of the committee members. I want to thank them again on this budget, and I want to thank my fellow commissioners as we worked really hard specifically to protect and fund and do the right thing with public safety. And I think that it was a tough task this cycle, but we got there. And I think it is also apparent by, what was a 10-0 vote by the budget committee. Has that ever happened before, Gary? Where a budget committee voted 10-0 on a budget?
Not that I remember.
I mean, there was a lot of consensus, and a lot of people on our budget committee are with a public safety background. We really did a lot of extra work on this year, and I'm really proud of the collaboration, not with just staff, but also all the various departments and with the members of the community. So with that said, colleagues, I plan on voting yes on this today.
Thank you, Commissioner West. We have other commissioners in the queue. Commissioner Schrader, you're up next.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Gary, can I just ask for some clarification? So part of the EDI budget has now been transferred to children, or it's going to be running that program. Is that what I'm hearing?
All right, so
just for clarity from my own.
I'm going to start, Sandra. At the Budget Committee
Right.
directed on the last day, reinstate the general fund contribution to Health, Housing,
Right.
Human Services for children of incarcerated parents. However, after that day, the Board of County Commissioners authorized ARPA dollars for the same program to Health, Housing, Human Services. So there's no longer the need
Okay.
to reinstate the general fund to H3S because you're now using ARPA dollars. That's also what Commissioner West was asking earlier.
Okay, great.
But
I
I'm
just
still
wanted to-
taking the $60,000 from the Equity and Inclusion Office because that was my commitment to you. No general funds for that program, and there are not. So those funds were removed from that office, but they are no longer needed for Health, Housing, Human Services because of the ARPA dollars you allocated.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Thank you, Ben, for being a little quicker on the uptake. You're the newbie, but
I feel like I feel like a
don't think
sponge. I feel like I'm a sponge. I'm just taking it all in.
but don't think I'm always I gotta get clarity too. I just have to make a statement. I really do believe we need to reinstate equity, diversity, and inclusion as part of a fundamental core service that we do for this county. And my understanding is that we're going to be having a conversation about that, to look at the policies, to talk about it, and Gary, we do have the opportunity in a budget process to revisit and reinstate if
So
and it's not actually been, we have not eliminated the department.
The office is not eliminated. It's still in this proposed budget. Out of the $820,000 budget, I've taken $60,000 out. So there's still 800 or $827,000 still left in that program.
Okay, thank you.
We're about to vote on.
So that'll be the discussion we'll have. But I will vote for this budget today. It's been a lot of hard work. I look forward to the conversation on equity, diversity, and inclusion, so we can come to a consensus. And I am glad we're having that conversation. If we weren't, I'd pretty much insist on it. So thank you, Gary, for the clarification. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the two topics that have been pointed out thus far by my colleagues, and I want to address both of those as well. So Gary, you just mentioned 821,000, but it was 60,000. So the math I want to come up with is that the actual amount appropriated for EDI or DEI is $768,403. Is that correct? Okay. So there's no reinstatement. It's in there. We're passing that today. There's no real cut other than that amount is now $768,403. So I'm happy with Commissioner West concurring with the interest of talking about the policy side of DEI, not the budget side of DEI. So if that's the case, I'm totally supportive. I also do, two things of interest that came out of our budget hearings was this issue and also the sheriff's office issue. I will, once again, will point to people and say, did you look at the book? Section 19 or tab 19 of our book for the sheriff's levy, or the sheriff's office, not the levy, but included in there is the levy, is the numbers, the real numbers. And so there is no $15 million cut to the sheriff's office. So I want to clarify that. And I also made several mentions during the budget cycle about tab 27, which contains not only the rationale for the updated allocation cost model, but also some of the good reasons. And I think it's a great read if you want to learn more about what allocated costs are designed to do. And essentially, that's really paying for your overhead, essentially, in a more efficient way than in past. So did I cover everything I wanted to talk about? So yes, we're not reinstating. Right. We're good to go. So I think that covers the comments, absent what might come up during the public testimony.
Sure. Yes, we have a few people who want to testify, but Commissioner's comments first. Commissioner Scholl, you're up.
Budget Manager Montoya, thanks for your description of the budget. When you talked about the EID line in the budget, you mentioned it was funded by allocated dollars. But please clarify something for me. All the departments receive general funds. Most departments receive general funds. Some of those general funds come back to pay for core services in the county, and those are called allocated dollars, correct? What I'm trying to get at here is that the $768,000 plus $3.6 million in ARPA dollars on the EID line, that's still taxpayer money. Okay. Now, one could say, yeah, the ARPA dollars comes from the federal government, but that's still taxpayer money. Okay. As you recall, on May 24th, my motion to not fund EID, and I stated my reasons why, failed. So here we are again with now $4.4 million still on that equity, inclusion, and diversity line, while many people in the county feel that $4.4 million could be better utilized somewhere else. So I bring this up again. I know we can't make a motion today to change it, but I want people to know that that $4.4 million on EID is seen as a very costly amount of money for something that most people in the county don't receive a benefit from. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Scholl. I would like to make some comments about this budget. I think that the Board of County Commissioners' ongoing focus is respect for every single tax dollar we receive, whether it comes in the form of our property taxes, our state taxes, flow-through programs that's still tax dollars, federal dollars that's still road fund, gas tax, fees, fines. Those are all taxpayer dollars, and we tried to do the very best that we could at this point in time, and I cannot stress that enough. And there could be supplemental budgets coming forth. We have for a year. We can make a budget change during that time, and it's usually come from staff because we have to balance the numbers through the year because numbers, they ebb and flow. And the passage of this budget keeps the full funds for every single police officer in the Sheriff's Department. We have not taken away our patrols, our jail staff, or our detectives. As a matter of fact, we guaranteed with general funds, should the sheriff's budget somehow go awry, and we don't think it will, that we would supplement that. So please keep that in mind. Also, during the Budget Committee hearing that we had with all 10 members, we agreed to go forth with an audit of the Sheriff's Department. And we just want to make sure that the police are fully funded and those funds are focused on crime reduction and law enforcement. And that's not too much to ask in a $74 million budget. $74 million. That is the focus. That's what we hear from the community. We feel that that is a very good starting point, and we're going to go through with that. I will now open, Commissioner Savas, you have a comment?
Yeah, I just want to get a clarification because of the number that was just raised by Commissioner Scholl. So I want to get further background because we didn't really, I'm going to digress. Normally, in a normal budget year, we have a lot of discussion over every tab. We have staff presentation. We ask a lot of questions. We did not do that this year. I think the budget was abbreviated, and it was also complicated by some other issues that were happening at the time. So can you enlighten the public and us on, and the page is not numbered, but I've got tab 4 open, which is the county administration. So the 4.4 that Commissioner Scholl pointed out is the 2023 ARPA funds that went towards EDI programs. And in the other column for 23-24, it's 3.6 million. So those monies, how many of those dollars were already spent and committed to via programs, so I can get a better thumbnail sketch or an idea of what that appropriation is, which is not ongoing, right? Once those dollars are depleted, and those are programmed out, they're depleted. That was my understanding. So I need some help with that because.
Okay, would you like me to answer that?
I'm going to start. So there's a lot of confusion here, Commissioners. Let me help. The Equity and Inclusion Office itself, the 3 people and the programs of the office is $760,000. That is the cost of the office and its function. The other money, up to $4 million, is ARPA dollars the board authorized for low-income people suffering because of the impacts of the pandemic. There was no other office or department that it made sense to put it in, so I said, let's put it in the equity office. The money is not for equity, it is for people who suffered, low-income folks in our community who suffered during the pandemic. You authorize those funds. That's just a place where it's held. I'll move it somewhere else if you want. But the entire, I say probably, I need your help. Almost half of it has been spent already, probably. Most of the money is out the door already. This is just to finalize the commitment the board made for that community. Please correct me or add to what I said, Senator.
What you're saying is absolutely correct. To date, we have $1,400,000 that has already been spent. We have $3.8 million that is already committed by purchase orders. So it's earmarked and it's contracted, in fact, to be spent. So what we have in the budget for next year is $3.6 million of that contracted or purchased order dollars.
And just for a point of clarification, it was a place to park the money until we could get it out to the many nonprofits in Clackamas County who will benefit from the ARPA funds. Just want to say that Commissioner Schrader, you're up.
Yeah, thank you, really, thank you for that clarification, because I think it was entirely necessary, and I know that we followed the guidelines of how we spend ARPA dollars very, very carefully. And maybe, Gary, we can get a list of some of the nonprofits and the programming, so we can really get that out to the public to know that we made an effort to help people in our community who are suffering from the result of COVID, all of the kinds of things that we've been dealing with for the past few years. So let's just get some clarity on that so we can be clear that this is going for programming that is essential and appropriate and necessary.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Gary and staff for the clarification. My recollection also, more importantly, was that all the other departments being busy, this was a more efficient way of getting the dollars out because staff had the availability to do that, staff time, resources. So I appreciate the clarification, and that answers my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner West.
I think we all have the same question. And Commissioner Schrader's request about what kind of programs were we helping with, vulnerable populations were we assisting, what work was being done, is good oversight and understanding to have. And I'm curious about how we were responsive, and then where those resources specifically went and what populations were directly served. And that I have the same questions as the rest of the board.
Yep, thank you very much. We're going to open the public hearing for in-person testimony first on this particular budget. I have several cards. Up first is Elvis Clark. Please come forward, state your name, area of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Hello, Elvis Clark. I live in Milwaukee, and I want to commend the board and the chair and the commissioners for looking for budget savings in order to help fund the new courthouse out there, which was much needed. Too often the tendency in government is to ask voters to pay higher taxes, property taxes, asking taxpayers to make cuts in their own personal living standards to do these kind of sacrifices. So you've done hard work and you've accomplished quite a bit. As a frequent volunteer for the Taxpayer Association of Oregon, I personally thank all of you for all your work on this budget and helping save taxpayer living costs. Most importantly, Clackamas County's quality of life is on an upward path with people moving to the county because of lower crime here than maybe next door county and decreasing homelessness and also living costs that are better over here. And the county is exploring also recovery first model instead for drug addiction, or it's breaking out trying to explore something that will actually result in less drug addiction. And next door county, Multnomah, they get a lot of reports that some of their attempts at solving the homeless and drug addiction problem is not going so well. They spent millions of dollars on a new apartment complex for affordable housing, and now it's taken over by drug addiction. And so we're exploring, we're being different than the rest of many of the state, and so that's really excellent. So thank you all for that work. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Up next, Wilda Parks. Please come forward, state your name, your area of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Morning. Wilda Parks. I live in the city of Milwaukee, and for a number of years I've had the honor of serving on the General Fund Budget Committee for Clackamas County, and I want you all to know how much I appreciate that, and I've appreciated having the opportunity several years of that to chair it as I did this past year. I want to thank staff and the Board of County Commissioners for all the tremendous work that was done in this budget procedure. I think Ben West kind of stole everything I was going to say because it
That's okay, you
sounds
can
very
say it again.
similar. But I'll say a lot of it again. This year was very different from most years of having served on the Budget Committee. First of all, we had new software that's been installed recently, and that changed how a lot of things were done within the county. There were new solutions to things that were found, and that changed how we do everything in the county, or how we do a number of things. There were issues, and you can tell from your discussion today that there were issues that maybe still aren't quite resolved that you all will be going into, especially when it comes to policy and not just financial. There were so many different kinds of factors that we were dealing with this budget, and at the same time, every effort was made to have it be as equitable and fair as it could be across the board for everybody, and still making sure that your core principles were addressed right up front. And the fact that they changed how the budget was presented, and we had 2 days of overview presentations that then permitted us to have an entire full day, should we have needed that, to have discussion about the budget and to have other deeper discussions about the various aspects of it. I think that was appreciated not only by myself, but my other citizen members that served with me, and they've all echoed those same kinds of thoughts. So I know there are still a few things to be ultimately resolved, and I appreciate that, but I want you to know how much I think a great job was done in this really kind of uneven year, and year of various kinds of factors that came together. And I would ask that you support the adoption of this budget today. Thank you.
Thank you, Wilda. We've appreciated your participation and your volunteer work on the budget. It has meant a lot to us. If you spent so much time learning what to do, and every year the numbers change, but thank you very much for your steadfastness. Okay.
Happy to help.
Up next is John Mullen. Come forward, state your name, your area of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Board of County Commissioners. For the record, John Mullen. I live in Oregon City, and pleased to have the opportunity to testify today. You've heard my testimony during the budget hearings about my concerns about the volunteer programs in Social Services Division. I talked about both the tradition and the value of volunteerism and how important it is. I don't think the board and the community has had a particularly robust discussion, or maybe almost no discussion, about what volunteer programs really mean to the citizens of the county and to the support of the work that the county does. I would encourage you to do this going forward. I'm very concerned about the loss of the RSVP program. If it had been done more in a proactive manner, perhaps there could have been another sponsor that emerged. I don't know if there is a sponsor for the program. I don't even know if the volunteers are aware of the fact that the program was cut. The budget came out, the budget message, budget information came out with a week between that and the actual hearing before the Budget Committee. I had an opportunity to testify. You also saw a testimony from AARP and Age Plus talking about the need for looking into the future and thinking about how we can best marshal resources, including volunteer programs. So while I would say the process was a bit of a concern, I'm concerned about the issues going forward as well as the adoption of this budget. As your administrator has pointed out, there'll be a $15 million cost every year going off into the future. It's my hope that the Board of County Commissioners can work with the community and work with collaboration with our state and federal partners and bring in additional resources. And I really would hope that there would be a focus on the value of the work that's being done in health, housing, and human services. I know you do have lots of support for the programs that are there, but I don't think there has been a really good discussion about where you head from here with the challenges that you have with paying for the courthouse. So with that, I would just say I really appreciate the opportunity to have had discussion with some of you individually as well as talking to you as a group. I wish you all the best. I know that I will continue to keep my eyes on Clackamas County and hope to see in the future some really good movement towards recognizing, understanding, and supporting the efforts of volunteers. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, John. We have a couple commissioners in the queue. Commissioner Schrader.
Thanks, John, for coming today, and I knew you were coming. We had a wonderful chat the other day, and I will tell you that I will be talking to Gary, our administrator, about RSVP. I want to see, again, to answer some of the questions that you've had about that. So, Gary, let's get that on our calendar. And I think that if it isn't a direct county function, we need to find a warm handoff for people that want to take this on and where it would fit at this point. I think I'll also be talking to Rod about that as well. So just giving you a heads up, commissioners, that this was a pretty wonderful program, and it really did keep seniors as volunteers, which is important, being a senior. Not volunteering right yet, but having that sense of focus and helping the community is essential as we age, quite frankly, and age well in our homes, we hope, or wherever else we need to age. So thanks, John, for your heart. And I want to say, like the other Schrader, you're also my conscience, okay? That's an inside joke, folks. There we go.
Thank you. Gary, would you like to address this?
Yes, so I've already been talking with Rod Cook, the Director of Health, Housing, Human Services, and I'm not making any commitments. We believe there's some external sponsors that may just take up this work right away. So we're hoping there'll be zero impact. That's not confirmed yet. We're just eliminating the position, which was an FTE here at the county that coordinated this program. The program's not ending, but with the position ending, who's going to manage it? So we're working very hard to find someone immediately so there's minimal impact to the public. That's not final yet, but that's my commitment to you, board, and to you, John, because you helped create the program. John used to work here at Clackamas County, and you helped create this program. It's been phenomenal over the many years. Thank you for your service, John, and your advocacy. We'll find a way to make it work.
Yes, so you can see we have had robust discussions about this program.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I just hope that the community understands where the board is going to be heading in the future about encouraging volunteer services.
Well, this is a perfect example. What we tried to do is we identified programs that were being paid for by the general fund and said, is there an outside source that could pay for that instead? And this is one of those. I'm pretty sure that we can find an outside source or possibly grant monies to do this. And we did that on many departments, especially with H3S, because it's social services and it's so broad. And there's so many services being offered with that. Commissioner West?
John, it's great to see you here today. I thought the very fruitful conversation I had with you and your wife during the budget committee process. Give her my regards and thank you for coming in today to speak with us. At that time, I know that Commissioner Schrader and I, and really this whole board, really had a little bit of anxiety about the funding source and about this program and the value that it's had over the years to Clackamas County and the need with this population. I want to be very empathetic to it and mindful as we move forward in it. I don't want to, like Gary said, overpromise and underdeliver, but I know that I committed, at least with my colleague Commissioner Schrader, to take an active role in trying to help be an advocate for that program going forward and getting it a safe glide path. And so I think we're actively still trying to do that work. I love what Commissioner Schrader said about continue to be our conscience, remind us, talk to us, right? Be a little Jiminy Cricket on my shoulder and whisper in my ear and be my voice for those populations that sometimes aren't seen in our community, but need to be supported. And so, thank you for coming today, and I want to commit to working with the board to continue to try to be helpful as we move forward. So as we make this really honestly a big budget adjustment. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, I just want to point out something that was mentioned here, and so I'm going to kind of back up a little bit to our policy sessions in which we were typically informed of it. There was a day not too long ago that our Tuesday started at 8 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning. They went on to about 3, 4 in the afternoon. And then carryover, more detailed sessions went on Wednesday. So we were more informed. And so when this change came about, my reaction was, well, I kind of not so comfortable with that. And, you know, the advice was, well, just wait and see how it works out. And then when this budget cycle came about, we all learned that it was not going to be like it was the year before with robust discussion at the budget side with how all these cuts might impact all those. So we lack robust discussion on the work session part for quite a while now, and with this. So if all I'm going to say collectively, it can't be both, in my opinion. I gave it a good faith effort to go through this process with less information and less sharing, but I do feel somewhat less informed of all the things that are going, and we don't know everything. We do a lot of stuff, but the packets are not as detailed as they once were, and so I feel sometimes I just don't have that information, and nor does the public have that available when they look at the website. So I just want to say in a constructive fashion that there needs to be a change with one or the other. It can't be both. Somehow we need to have a better understanding of all the impacts that we're experiencing. So that's my advice. I listened, I watched, I was objective and open-minded, but I don't feel as connected to all the different programs and all the different work we did or we're doing as we did in the past. And that's with 12 years of experience, not expert, but experience.
Thank you very much. Thank you, John, for coming forward.
Could I just say, Madam Chair, thank you very much for the opportunity. I appreciate the words of the commissioners and the commitment of staff, and I'd be happy to help however I can.
Good, good. Thank you very much for your help on this, John. And I have notes. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to testify on the county general budget? Tony, do we have anyone online who would like to testify on the county general budget?
Madam Chair, we will begin with Jeanette DeCastro. Ms. DeCastro, please state your name and area of residence. You will have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. My name is Jeanette DeCastro. I live in unincorporated Clackamas County in the Sunnyside, Mount Scott CPO. I will share with you that I am female, white, straight, cisgendered, kind of ordinary. I am here today to object to any proposed cuts to the Equity and Inclusion Office at Clackamas County. I appreciate that discussion will happen later. I do request that when those robust policy discussions that Commissioner West mentioned are on the calendar, please publicize those widely. Please reach out to community. I understand as commissioners, you're very busy. Folks have to reach out to you to an extent. But to really get the full input from the community, you're going to have to reach out also. Traditionally, people with resources can reach out to the government. I'm an example of that. I'm going to point to an example of why I find this suggestion to cut the office so egregious. In the summer of 2021, there was a memorial to a person named Jermiel Madison, and that was defaced with hateful imagery. The person who did that was arrested and charged with a hate crime. That person was a Clackamas County employee. It was heartbreaking and upsetting. And I am white. It wasn't aimed at me personally, but I don't want things like that happening in my county. And I believe that the work that our Equity and Inclusion Office does is very critical to making sure that we make sure our government and the services provided are available to everyone. So really, my asks are, do the work of reaching out to community. And when you have this discussion, really think about what are the long-term impacts of what you're suggesting. I thank you very much for your time. Have a great day.
Thank you. Tony, who's next?
Next up is Jane Littlefield. Ms. Littlefield, please state your name and area of residence. You will have 3 minutes.
Hi there, my name is Jane Littlefield. I'm an Oregon City resident. Thank you for this opportunity to share my thoughts. I am so supportive of the principles in the county's strategic plan of keeping vulnerable residents safe and healthy and fostering a culture of trust, communication, diversity, and innovation. Equity and inclusion efforts are foundational to working towards these goals. Commissioner Shull said a moment ago that he does not want to spend public funds on, quote, something that most people in the county do not receive a benefit from, end quote. By that logic, should we not fix roads that don't experience much traffic because most people in the county do not drive on them? Should we not fund bike lanes because not everybody rides a bike? Equity and inclusion efforts are not a zero-sum game. Helping others succeed, be seen, and feel safe does not mean others lose anything. And what's more, I submit that helping others succeed, be seen, and feel safe does enable everyone in the county to benefit via people choosing to visit, move, and stay here, raise families here, and work here. I'm very supportive of continuing to robustly fund the Equity and Inclusion Office. I look forward to conversations about equity, diversity, and inclusion next month. Thank you, commissioners, and thanks to everyone engaging in helping our community grow and thrive.
Thank you very much, Ms. Littlefield. Tony, who's next?
If you would like to testify on the county's 23-24 budget, please use the raise hand feature and I will call on you in the order received. Madam Chair, I do not have any hands raised.
Thank you. That is all we have on public testimony. But what I would like to say on the EDI front is we will start an initial discussion on July 11th during issues with the county administrator. It's just an initial discussion. Nothing will be decided. County Administrator Gary Schmidt is going to lead the discussion. The commissioners will opine. And then at that point, we will move forward and engage the public in a more robust discussion. But we have to have an initial meeting first, if you understand. We're not trying to dissuade anybody for participation, but we're going to tee it up on July 11th as I promised in our budget meeting last month. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I guess this is the opportunity for discussion before a motion is made, so to approve the budget. Last week, I had the intention of supporting the budget. I'm not sure what I'm going to do this morning yet, so I haven't really made a decision, but I was a little bit upset to learn about, which is in the widely published in the newspapers today, that the state legislature only gave us 30 of the $61 million we asked for the courthouse. And knowing that that challenges the structural forward-looking aspects of how we go forward with those payments of $15 million and escalating up to about $18 million over the years, it just gives me a little bit of pause that more cuts will probably be necessary unless we get additional funding. And we don't necessarily, it's not a crisis as of yet. We've got a year or so to maybe make another ask for the balance. We went forward with this project in good faith with the state that they would live up to their end of the bargain and covering their portion of that. And so I'm a little bit concerned about that. The other thing I wanted to mention that came out this week, or late last week, I believe, was from the Independent Auditor's Office, was the audit on the financial condition of the county. And a lot of good data in there. I'm still processing that, and I'm really looking forward, hopefully, Chair, that we will have a discussion on that financial condition. But it does raise some questions, with me. It's not as though there's anything wrong. It's more about our condition, and I'm really speaking to, going forward and maybe looking back into all our processes. And you'll hear that from me as far as a number of things. Now, granted, It had a scope, and those scopes of audits are, those type audits have a narrower scope. It's not our annual audit, which we normally do, but it's a specialized, focused audit. So I want to thank the staff, especially the Treasurer's Office and our independent internal auditor for that work, and our staff for all the work that supported that. But it does give me a little bit of concern in some areas. In some areas, we look really, really good. So I want to make that perfectly clear. I don't want to paint a dark picture here, but it's more to the combined impacts of that I read there that kind of give me, I'm a little uneasy here this morning than I was a week ago prior to seeing both of those, or learning of both of those. I want to just say I really applaud all the work of our staff in this budget. This is just one of the 12 here. And my colleagues, staff, for all the good work that they did, and the members of the Budget Committee for all that great work. So it was a struggle this year, more so than other. It was an unusual budget cycle for us as we've been accommodated with different procedures and so forth. So again, my accolades to everyone for all the hard work. I think what I'm pointing out to is not a fault of anyone. It's just the situation that we're in. So we will continue to advocate to the state legislature for the balance, and hopefully they will help us out with that, because I'm worried going forward.
Thank you. Commissioner West.
I wasn't here when the Board of County Commissioners chose to buy a courthouse. I was a Wilsonville City Councilor at that time and was kind of cluing in the same as anybody else here that lives in Clackamas County as a tax-paying resident that really cares about public safety. And at that time, through a lot of debate and reasoning and rationale, that the board chose to go ahead and build the courthouse, use an innovative public-private partnership, and not ask the taxpayers to pay for it. Now, that can be debated, but that decision is made on whether or not that should happen. But I think I want to bring a little context. As we wrestled, and I was newly elected and said, okay, Commissioner West, you didn't choose to buy the courthouse, but you do get to figure out how to pay for it and have a role in that. And so here I am today doing that duty. And as I reflect on this, Clackamas County has been quite steadfast in its purpose and leadership in building critical infrastructure like the courthouse. It weathered a lot of storms prior to me being here to have the structure being built that we look out our windows with pride and say, wow, look, there's a new layer going up. There's more foundation being laid in. There's going to be a better delivery of justice in Clackamas County. And that's a priority. Good functioning governments can provide adequate justice to the community and proper law enforcement. And we're doing that through the courthouse. And I look back and, as we wrestle with the legislature to commit to the promise that they made to help fund that courthouse, they gave, I think, $60 million-ish towards courthouses. We got 30 of that appropriation this year, which we are very thankful for. It's not the full bill, as Commissioner Savas correctly alluded to, but they gave us half of it. Lane County asked their voters if they wanted a courthouse, and voters are feeling the pinch, as Earl said to us earlier, and so did another testimony about the real pinch that voters are feeling. They're a little fatigued with the constant hit to their pocketbooks in today's environment. And Lane County, they said no, they didn't want it, which added a wrinkle to Lane County. Now, what's interesting is Multnomah County built a very expensive, beautiful, brand new courthouse. They weren't asked to go to the voters and raise their tax dollars.
They did not raise taxes.
They didn't raise taxes to do it. And they were, maybe it's because they tend to maybe have certain allies in the legislature that's willing to just help them foot the bill, different than Clackamas County. But Clackamas County did not do anything that drastically different than what we've seen historically, but wanted to make sure the courthouse was built because it met the value system of our county. And it fell within our high priority of public safety. So here we are, we're paying for this. This budget is not perfect because there's no such thing. There are things in here that gave me a little consternation as I look at this. And so now I want to pivot, and I want to speak to my 4 colleagues and implore you to vote for this budget. A lot of extra sweat and toil and angst and digging in this in a deep way, I think did happen, especially behind the scenes. I'd never been through a budget process quite like this and quite this large. But I'm voting for this budget because I support public safety. I'm voting for this budget because we're funding every single law enforcement FTE. We're making sure that we have a functioning justice system. We are going to make sure that we have the deputies and the officers necessary in our jail system. We're making sure that we have funded the programs that help keep people from having to intersect with the justice system. These are essential mandates that we have. I may not love everything in this budget. It may have got contentious at times. And we can continue to address those issues and policy issues moving forward. We've talked about EDI, how we're going to continue to address that and have a more robust conversation. But please, commissioners, join me in supporting this budget today.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Scholl?
Yes, thank you. No one gets everything they want out of a budget. I didn't. The sheriff didn't. Maybe some other departments did not. Others did well. It's my job as a commissioner and as a member of the Budget Committee not to accept the budget as presented by the county administrator, but to be very critical of the budget, to seek out items on the budget that could be replaced, reduced, or omitted, so that we have a chance to provide an efficient government to the people of this county who are every day more pressed in making ends meet. I agree with Commissioner Savas that the way that the budget was presented this year made it difficult for us to have visibility into the details of the budget. And that's not a criticism of the county administrator. You came up with an idea that you thought would be more efficient, but I felt that the abbreviated budget packet made it difficult for us to actually see enough detail to determine where is there fat, where is there areas that need to be bolstered in the budget. So, and I accept and look forward to the discussion on EID so that we all know how this works. How does it affect everyone in the county, regardless of their skin color? And again, I'd like to thank Wilda Parks, Chair of the Budget Committee, and all the members of the Budget Committee for their work this year. And so, again, I'm not 100% happy with the budget. I wish it could be a little bit leaner, and I encourage the staff and the county administrator to look at the budget for next year and see how we can make it more transparent to the Budget Committee and the commissioners, and continue to do everything you can to hold down the steep rise in the cost of government. And so, as not to throw the baby out with the bathwater, I will support the budget this year. And again, thank you for your work.
Thank you, Commissioner Scholl. I'm going to make a comment here. I'd like to thank our citizens, members of the Budget Committee, and they are James Karn, James Rhodes, Kenny Cernak, Jan Lee, and Wilda Parks. They served in one of our most difficult budget committees, our most difficult volunteer budget committees, and everything changes year after year, and they are not paid. They just do it because they believe in public service. Governing is not pretty, and certainly in these times, budgets aren't either. But I'm very proud of the results that we have achieved with our current county commission. We are a family with strong beliefs.
And we differ at times, but we usually come together to get really important things accomplished. I can confidently say that we have shown clearly that ideas matter. While neighboring counties face the same issues, neighboring counties have budgets that are crashing. Multnomah County went to the legislature 3 times for the completion of their courthouse. I expect we'll be back with a newly elected legislature and without possibly all the dissension that has happened over the last few months, and they will be looking at Clackamas County as one of the more successful counties in the entire state of Oregon, as witnessed by the fact that people continue to leave our neighbors to the north and move to Clackamas County. There's always more we can do, but I am proud of what we've accomplished in the face of very serious challenges. Clackamas County is one of only 2 counties in the entire United States that was under 3 declared emergencies at the same time. We got through that. Our newly elected governor says, oh, I want to do another emergency for housing. And we can debate whether that was even necessary. In the Tri-County areas, it may have been necessary in other parts of the region, but yet that was another layer of government over the top of what we had been doing, and it was cumbersome. I am very excited to continue leading Clackamas County on our own unique path of succeeding. We are a successful county. And together, commissioners, we will stay united and do a very, very important work for the citizens, residents who elect us to sit at this dais. Thank you very much. Commissioner Scholl.
Chair Smith, there's one thing we haven't discussed this morning, and that is in this budget, the property tax rates for 2023-24 stated in here. Are they unchanged from the previous year?
Correct. There are no change.
There's
to the
no
existing-
increases to property tax rates in this budget?
Correct.
Okay, good, thank you.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I want to speak to the points that were been made thus far, and particularly Commissioner West. I appreciate the plea to join in you, and I'm compelled to do so. And I'm also want to just thank you for your interest and curiosity in wanting to learn more about that. So I'm going to take a leap of faith and support the budget, but I'm going to lean on you for support to endeavor into some more robust discussions in areas I think that are going to impact the county in its future. And I just want to just say I appreciate your curious nature and willing to listen and your support on doing that. So if you'll join me in that endeavor, I will support the budget. Hopefully that's not perceived as blackmail.
To my friend and colleague, absolutely, it means the world that you say such kind words at the dais. It is, we don't do this alone, we do this as a team. Sometimes, it's not easy, but I mean, I trust my colleagues and I trust our good faith in trying to do this work. And so absolutely, I will continue to do that and partner with you and Commissioner Schrader and Chair Smith and Commissioner Scholl as we try to lead in this county. So thank you for those words.
I will now close the public hearing. I see no other commissioner lights that are on, so I'm going to hurry up and ask for a motion before someone changes their mind. And it is a difficult motion, and please take your time in reading it.
Chair, clear my throat, it's a long one. I move for approval of the resolution adopting a budget with changes from the Budget Committee approved budget as presented by staff of $1,266,733,717 and appropriating funds in the amount of $1,144,331,087 for the fiscal year 2023 through 2024, and imposing and categorizing property taxes for the tax year of 2023 through 2024 in the amount of $2.40.42 per 1,000 in assessed value for Clackamas County, City, and $97.66 per 1,000 in assessed value for Clackamas County Rural, a public safety local option levy rate of 36.8 per 1,000 in assessed value, and $5,559,000 in a general obligation bond debt service. Excuse me.
Seconded.
Commissioner West has moved that we approve the general county budget. I am not going to repeat every number. I don't think it's necessary. And Commissioner Shull has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, please take the poll.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Shull.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously, 5-0. I want to congratulate my commissioners. I want to say a great deal of gratitude for all your contributions to the successful passage of this budget. Gary, what's next?
Do you want to take a short break or keep moving forward?
Commissioners, we have quite a bit of work to do. I don't believe lunch is here yet.
No.
So what I'm going to do is some of these budgets are shorter than the other. I think what we'll do, if commissioners need to take a break, go ahead. But we're going to continue until noon, and then we'll take a break for a half hour and come back and finish the rest of the budgets. Okay, thank you. Gary, what's next?
All right, Chair, would you please convene as Water Environment Services Board of Directors?
I will now recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as a Water Environment Services Board of Directors.
This is Water Environment Services public hearing. There are 3 budget public hearings. The first is about rates. The second is about system development charges. The third and final is about the budget itself. So there are 3 separate sections of this. First public hearing, approval of a board order amending and adopting rates and charges for water environment services. Fiscal impact is approximately $1.2 million in additional sewer and surface water monthly service charge revenue. No county general funds are involved. Greg Geist is the Director of Water Environment Services. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Gary. Good morning, Chair Smith, Commissioners. Apologies in advance. This is going to be quite boring, hopefully. So the next 3 items are all related to the adoption of Wes's budget. To provide context for your actions today, the first 2 items on the agenda include a request to amend and adopt new monthly sewer and surface water rates, followed by a request for inflationary adjustments to the system development charge rates. The third item will request adoption of Wes's budget. Both Wes's proposed budget and rate adjustments are part of a long-term financial strategy supported by Wes's advisory committee and will ensure funding for necessary capital improvements and resources to continue providing wastewater and surface water services to the community. As mentioned in the first item, this first item is a board order to amend and adopt rates and charges for sewer and surface water rates for next fiscal year. The proposed rates reflect approximately 5% adjustments to the wastewater treatment, wastewater collection services charges, and 5 to 6% adjustments to the surface water management service charges, depending on the rate zone. The dollar impact of the proposed rate increases on a customer's monthly bill will depend on the rate zone they live in and the services they receive. Households will pay between $0 and $2.05 more per month, depending on whether they receive a wastewater treatment and wastewater collection services or whether or not they pay a legacy debt component on their monthly bill. Most customers that Wes bills directly will see an increase of $1.20 per month or $14.40 per year for combined wastewater and surface water services. I respectfully recommend that the board, acting as the governing body of Water Environment Services, approve the board order amending and adopting rates and charges for Wes.
Thank you. Do the directors have any qualifying questions or comments on this particular budget? Commissioner Shull.
Yes, Mr. Geis, I want to thank you for your work to continue to be sensitive to the rate that your customers are paying. This looks to me like you have been sensitive. And again, I thank you for your work.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, Greg, I just have a question, and I'm glad that you have staff here behind you in case you're not unable to answer it. Maybe Ron has a better idea, perhaps. But a couple nights ago, I attended a meeting at another local utility who was going through their budget. And a discussion came about, unbeknownst to me, that it may appear, can't say for certain, it may appear that the capital plan aspect and the investment in the collection and conveyance system may not have been followed through on, or maybe as robust as it could have been. And so they're faced with a dollar amount. It's not clear to me today what that is. I certainly got better clarity yesterday, but not complete. So my question is, I do know that your department has made, on the wastewater side, substantial investment in the critical infrastructure in the plants and some of the large conveyance lines, pump stations. I'm aware of that. We approve that, so I'm watching. But on the smaller side, which is what apparently this utility is suffering through right now, apparently, is the smaller conveyance lines in the collection system that are probably not that much different than this other utility, neighboring utility. So my question is, are we on track? Are we making routine annual investments in upgrading those lines so that we're not facing a larger rate increase? Because ours is, as you mentioned, $1 something. Theirs is $25 a month increase. That's not all wastewater. So I just want to make that perfectly clear, but approximately $17 of that is wastewater, but a portion of that apparently is the treatment side of it, and a larger part of it may be along the lines of the collection conveyance, which is why I'm asking the question. What are we doing programmatically to tackle this every year so we're not faced with a big bill in the future?
Good question, and we absolutely are. If I can just backtrack a little bit, after the formation of the West 190 Partnership in 2016, we have conducted a series of master plans. Now we have the ability to look far into the future without worrying about how the different districts would or could negotiate building infrastructure. So we've done a collection system master plan. We've done what we call a Willamette Facilities Plan, which is a plan for our treatment facilities. We've done a surface water master plan. Part of the collection system, and we are implementing that collection system master plan today. You're right, we have invested in our system. We have major investments coming up, and I don't have the number in front of me, Aaron may have it, but every year we set aside about $1 million for rehabilitation and investigations for the small pieces of our system. So yes, it's a line item in our budget. It's about $1 million a year, and it's for that exact purpose.
Okay, I would really appreciate maybe having a work session on that, just to give us a understanding, because this came as a big shock to me, and we had those plans in place when I was on those boards back then, and so it just strikes me, you can have a plan, but if you don't follow through with it, and I don't know if that happened yet, too early to tell. Mm-hmm. But if we're not aggressive enough, then a big shock wave like that is very unsettling.
You read my mind. So our capital program manager, Jeff Stallard, has been doing a series of informational presentations to both internal West staff and our city partners about our capital improvement plan and exactly what we're going to be doing over the next 10 years. So I think that would be a wonderful topic for a session with you.
Yeah, thank you for considering that.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Schrader?
Yeah, since you're here, Greg, can you talk a little bit about the Outfall project? And you've gotten a national award, I think, from NACO, and it was largely because of how you managed to do significant outreach during the pandemic.
Yes, I don't have the details in front of me, but yeah, we're very proud. We did get a NACO award for particularly the public outreach and involvement piece around the outfall project during the pandemic. And I have to shout out to Shelley Perini, as usual. She was the tip of that spear and the brains behind the operation. But yeah, we got a 70+% vote out of Oregon City to allow the project to happen. We've worked with the tribes, we've worked with ODOT, and yeah, it's been a huge success, and it was all done during the pandemic, kind of on the fly, making it up as we go along with Shelley's sage advice.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Seeing none, I will now open the public hearing for anyone in the room wishing to testify on this topic for the West appropriate budget. I don't see anyone in the room. Tony, do we have anyone online who wishes to testify?
If you would like to testify on this hearing, please use the raise hand feature, and I will call on you in the order received. Madam Chair, I do not have any hands raised.
Okay, I will close the public hearing and ask if there's any further discussion. May I have a motion?
I move for approval of the board order amending and adopting rates and charges for water environment services.
Second.
Commissioner Sherrill has moved for approval of the board order amending and adopting rates and charges for water environment services, and Commissioner Savas has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, please call the poll.
Director Schrader.
Aye.
Director Savas.
Aye.
Director Shull.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. I neglected to say it was Director Scholl and Director Schrader who did the motion, and Director West has stepped out just for a moment. Gary, what's next?
Next public hearing, approval of a resolution adjusting system development charges for water environment services for fiscal year 2023-2024. Fiscal impact is approximately $213,600 in additional revenues per year. No county general funds are involved. Greg, go ahead.
Thank you, Gary. This resolution is for adjustments to the sewer and surface water system development charges for new connections to WES's systems. The recommended 3.01% adjustments are inflationary only, and based on the Engineering News Record Construction Cost Index as of March 2023. These increases would become effective July 1st, and as mentioned, were included in the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget that was presented to and approved by WES's Budget Committee on May 22nd. I will say if we used, we chose March of 2023 rather than the entire year. If we had looked at the entire year and averaged, it would have been between 7 and 8%. We think that 3% is a more realistic number moving forward, so that's why we chose that. And with that, I respectfully recommend that the board, acting as governing body of water environment services, approve the resolution adjusting its system development charges.
Thank you. Before I take Commissioner qualifying questions, there are two more budgets for the water environment services, and then that will be a natural break before we hear NCPRD. And Mike, we will come back after lunch at 12:30 to hear your budget. So if you need to go, so we'll finish out these two public hearings and then probably take us up to the noon hour. Commissioners, do we have any more questions or comments regarding this particular budget?
I do, just one. It's that the actual SDC rate is going up.
Yes, 3.01%.
3.01%, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? I will now open a public hearing, and I will take in-person testimony first. Is there anyone in the room who would like to testify on this particular hearing and this budget? See none. Tony, is there anyone online?
If you would like to testify, please use the raise hand feature, and I will call on you in the order received. Madam Chair, I do not have any hands raised.
Thank you, Tony. I will now close the public hearing and ask if there's further discussion. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
I move we approve the resolution. Oops, got the wrong one. I'm sorry.
Middle of page 7, I think.
There we go, yep. I move for approval of resolution adopting appropriating funds.
Wrong one.
Wrong one. Why
May
am
I?
I?
Yeah, middle.
There it is, okay.
Middle of 7.
I move we approve the resolution adjusting the system development charges for water environmental services for the fiscal year 2023-24.
Seconded.
Director Savas has moved we approve the resolution adjusting system development charges for water and environment services for fiscal year 2023-24, and Director Scholl has seconded the motion. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none. Tony, please take the poll.
Director Schrader,
Aye.
Director Scholl,
Aye.
Director Savas,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. Thank you. Gary, what's next?
The third and final public hearing for Water Environment Services is approval of a resolution adopting and appropriating funds for fiscal year 2023-2024 budget for Water Environment Services. The budget is $288,905,817, with appropriations totaling $148,427,004. Funding is through Water Environment Services funds, ratepayer charges, fees, fines, and other revenue sources. No county general funds are involved. Greg, go ahead.
Thank you. So we've done the rates, we've done the SDCs, now we're to the budget. The West Budget Committee met on May 22nd to receive the budget message, hear public comment, and deliberate on the proposed budget. At that meeting, the Budget Committee approved the budget as presented, which includes the increases to sewer and surface water rates and SDCs that were just presented and approved. A financial summary of the budget, approved budget, and notice of this hearing was published on June 9th in accordance with Oregon budget law. I respectfully recommend that the board, acting as the governing body of Water Environment Services, approve our budget.
Thank you, Greg. Do commissioners have any clarifying questions or comments?
I will save mine for after the hearing's closed.
Thank you. I will now open the meeting for public testimony and take in-person testimony first. Is there anyone in the room who would like to testify on this particular West budget? Seeing none. Tony, is there anyone online?
If you would like to testify on the Water Environment Services budget, please use the raise hand feature and I will call on you in the order received. Madam Chair, I do not have any hands raised.
Thank you. I will now close the public hearing and ask commissioners, is there further discussion? Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just want to do a little bit, just talk a little bit about the West Advisory Committee. And this is, I mean no harm when I say this, but none of us live in the district, right? And as a result of that, and through a lot of work and the state's assistance, we have now an agreement with all the cities and unincorporated areas that are represented on the West Advisory Committee. I just want to say thank you to the staff for what they're doing with the West Advisory Committee, my colleague Commissioner Schrader, who sits on that, and also the members of the West Advisory Committee for all their hard work. So as I say that, and my shock wave that hit me that I alluded to earlier with a local district, it just reminds me that our due diligence should not assume that things will be followed through on. So I just ask for more involvement at the board level to make sure that some of these things are checked. That's not a criticism. That's not an assumption that anything's awry. But I have this is put it just bothers me a little bit, and not Wes. It's just to realize that. If we don't keep an eye on it, if we're not diligent as elected leaders in this county to do our work, then things can go awry, and or they're not unexplained, whatnot. I just reminds me of how much work we have to do. And so, again, thank you for your work. No, I have no heartburn with the work that's being done, but I do think that we should be more involved with the district.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion from commissioners? Greg, did you have a comment? Okay, sorry about that. I will accept a motion.
I move we approve the resolution adopting a budget of $288,905,817 and appropriating funds in the amount of $148,427,004 for the fiscal year 2023-24 for water environment services.
Second.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Scholl, Director Scholl's move, we approve the resolution adopting a budget of $288,905,817 and appropriating funds in the amount of $148,427,004 for fiscal year 2023-24 for water environment services. Director Schrader has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, please take the poll.
Director West.
Aye.
Director Savas.
Aye.
Director Schrader.
Aye.
Director Scholl.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Greg, for coming forward, and your staff and all the good work you're doing. We finished a little bit sooner than I thought on these, but Gary, what's your recommendation now?
Take the break now.
Take the break now. Thank you, Commissioners. We will reconvene. We'll pause and reconvene at 12:30 for the rest of the budgets.
Okay.
We now have returned from our lunch break, and I will now adjourn as a Water Environment Services Board of Directors and convene as a North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Board of Directors. Gary.
Thank you, Chair. Next is North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District public hearing. Item 1, approval of a resolution adopting and appropriating funds for fiscal year 2023-2024 budget for the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District and imposing and categorizing a property tax for tax year 2023-2024. Budget is $57,528,303, with appropriations totaling $44,344,474. Funding is through existing district funds, property taxes, fees and fines, and other revenue sources. No county general funds are involved. Mike Bork is the Director of North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Directors. On May 22nd, 2023, the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Budget Committee met to receive the budget message, hear public comment, and deliberate on the proposed budget. At that meeting, the Budget Committee approved the budget as presented. A financial summary of the approved budget and notice of this hearing was published on June 14th in accordance with Oregon budget law. I respectfully recommend that the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Board approve the resolution adopting the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget in the amount of $57,528,303 with appropriations of $44,344,474 and impose a tax rate of 0.5382 per $1,000 of assessed value of property within the district boundaries of the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. That ends my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Do the directors have any questions or comments? Commissioner Savas.
Actually, Chair, I will hold that to after the public testimony piece.
Okay, that's fine. I will now open the public hearing for testimony. Is there any person in the room who would like to speak on this particular budget? I see no one in the room, as a matter of fact. Tony, is there anyone online?
If you would like to testify on the NCPRD budget, please use the raise hand feature and I'll call on you in the order received. Madam Chair, I do not have any hands raised.
Thank you, Tony. I will now close the public hearing and ask if there's any further discussion.
Yeah, Chair, if I may, if you all indulge me, I think it's just really important to get this on the record, and I've typically done this with a couple of the budgets over the years, so this is not anything new. My comments are not directed towards anyone in this room, and especially Mike, because you're a new director for NCPRD relative to the years of history of the 30 years. So I also, Gary, I think is probably the most aware of some of the concerns I've raised over the years about just some, I call it housekeeping. I don't think there's anything that is, nefarious. I don't claim that or anything. It's just really about house cleaning. And I appreciate the administrator seeking out or participating or supporting the very narrow scope of the audit that the independent auditor performed with regards to a level of governance, not governance in general, but a narrow scope of governance, how we operate and convene ourselves as the board of directors and adjourning and where we have our meetings and so forth. And I appreciate that a lot of that's been followed through on. But I just caution my colleagues that it just only scratches the surface of, I think, more work that needs to be done. And particularly, my comments will be more directed towards, I mean, this is not all of it, but this is just one aspect I think is current to mind as it relates to the budget, and I raised this during the budget committee meeting, is that we have properties that are either in the district or outside the district boundaries in which the district owns. Some of those properties have an operating cost to run. Some of those properties have, over the years, been acquired by the district, in which there, are some sizable expenditures to maintain those buildings and keep them up to speed, and yet some of those properties and buildings are not being used by the district and not being used for district purposes. And I don't think it's necessarily appropriate for a county service district for Parks and Recreation to be engaged in some of the activities that are taking place on the other properties, because they're not consistent with park use. They're perfectly fine reasons. They're all good activities for public service, but they're not in the umbrella or the purpose of Parks and Recreation. So I just caution my board and encourage my board and the administrator to endeavor into a little bit of work in that area so we can at least get those agreements or changes or liquidate the properties, whatever it may be, that puts us in alignment so we are not financially, and this is why it's related to the budget committee here today, we're not financially liable for the repairs and maintenance for properties in which we collect little to no or adequate income whatsoever to take care of things like roofs and so forth, as was discussed at the budget meeting on the 24th or 23rd, I believe. No need for anyone in the room to respond. I just want to kind of get that on the record. I am not going to support the budget today, as I want to just kind of, so to speak, bookmark this as a reference point, and I'm hoping that there is action taken to bring that to the board's attention on what we're going to do with these properties and how we're either going to restructure the agreements or liquidate the properties in such a way that is in the best interest of the district. That's all I have, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Savas. Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, Mr. Bork, question for you, just to clarify a point here. You're categorizing a property tax in the amount of 53.82 per thousand. You mean 53.82 cents per thousand?
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, a typo. Thank you for catching that. It's okay. We know it's cents and not dollars. Any further discussions? I will accept a motion on page 9.
Yes, I move we approve the resolution adopting a budget of $57,528,303 and appropriating funds in the amount of $44,344,474 for the fiscal year 2023-24 for the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District, and imposing and categorizing a property tax in the amount of 53.82 cents per thousand in assessed value for tax year 2023-24.
Second.
Director Scholl has moved we approve the resolution adopting a budget of $57,528,303 and appropriating funds in the amount of $44,344,474 for fiscal year 2023-24, the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District, and imposing a categorized property tax in the amount of 0.5382 per $1,000 in assessed tax value for the year 2023, 2024. And it has been seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Any further discussion? Tony, please take the poll.
Director West.
Aye.
Director Savas.
No.
Director Schrader.
Aye.
Director Shull.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 4-1. Thank you very much. I will now adjourn as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Board and convene as the Enhanced Law Enforcement District Board of Directors. Gary, what's next?
Sorry, Chair. This is a public hearing for the Enhanced Law Enforcement District. Item 1, approval of a resolution adopting and appropriating funds for the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget for the Enhanced Law Enforcement District and imposing and categorizing a property tax for tax year 2023-2024. Budget is $8,888,752, with appropriations totaling $8,888,752. Funding is through beginning fund balance, taxes, intergovernmental shared revenues, other revenue sources, and interest. No county general funds are involved. Sandra Montoya, Budget Manager, will present. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Sandra Montoya, Budget Manager. On May 22nd, the Enhanced Law Enforcement District Budget Committee approved a budget appropriating $8,888,752 for fiscal year 23-24. Staff recommends that the board hold a public hearing and consider adoption of the 23-24 budget to appropriate $8,888,052, impose a tax rate of 0.7198 cents per thousand of assessed value on property within the district, and categorize the taxes as subject to general government limitations. The tax rate has remained the same as the current year.
Thank you for that. Any questions or comments from commissioners? I will now open the meeting for public testimony. I will take in-person testimony first. Seeing no one in the room, Tony, is there anyone online?
If you would like to testify on the Enhanced Law Enforcement District budget, please use the raise hand feature and I will call on you in the order received. Madam Chair, I do not have any hands raised.
I will now close the public hearing and ask commissioners, do you have any qualifying comments or questions?
Chair, I do. I know that we have kind of discussed this, and I don't have a clear understanding of exactly what we are, how we're going to tackle this problem. I've raised this for a number of years, and I appreciate the fact that staff and the board have chosen to live up to the language of the ballot measure that formed the ELED. One piece of it in particular was funding 36 deputies, I believe. I believe that's the number, fully funding 36 deputies, which we are doing. It was brought out by members of the Budget Committee, myself included, over the years that almost a conflicting point of view. Number one, that the tax rate in no way can keep up and live up to everything that's in the measure. It can't be done. And so I assume if we do everything in the budget or everything that's in the measure that it was instructed by, that it would receive a subsidy, whether it be from the general fund or from whatever part of the sheriff's budget. How that exactly done, I don't know. But I think the other point of view that's been shared is that, that applies to almost every district or any jurisdiction that has a fixed rate, that if you cannot fulfill everything you once did, you have to make cuts. And those cuts could equate to maybe a structural issue inside or maybe a staff adjustment. But I think from a practical standpoint, just to be very clear, it should be remedied in a way with a policy or a resolution stating that we recognize X, and here's how we're going to adjust it in the years going forward, knowing that the cost are outpacing the revenues, and that's been going on for a number of years. So I have no desire or interest to cut any deputies, and I know that the law enforcement needs within the boundaries of ELED are pretty intense, and I know that everyone that I've spoken to within the boundaries of the district wants to see more law enforcement and And some may view that the fact that they're maybe not getting enough today. So that just demonstrates the need. But I do think from a jurisdictional standpoint, as the board of the Enhanced Law Enforcement District, that we should resolve that conflict. Not here today, of course, but just want to put that out there. And that's all I have for today, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other directors like to speak on this particular budget? I will now go to a public hearing and ask if there's anyone in the room who would like to testify.
I thought we already did.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself on something else. I'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve the resolution adopting a budget of $8,888,752 and appropriating funds in the amount of $8,888,752 for the fiscal year 2023-24 budget for the Enhanced Law Enforcement District and imposing and categorizing a property tax in the amount of 71.98 cents per thousand in assessed value for the tax year 2023-24.
Second.
Commissioner Scholl has moved. We approve the resolution adopting the budget of $8,888,752 and appropriating funds in the amount of $8,888,752 for fiscal year 2023-24 budget for the Enhanced Law Enforcement District and imposing a categorizing a property tax in the amount of 71.98 cents per $1,000 in assessed value for tax year 2023-24. And seconded by Commissioner Savas. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, please take the poll.
Director Schrader.
Aye.
Director West.
Aye.
Director Savas.
Aye.
Director Shull.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. I will now adjourn as the Enhanced Law Enforcement District Board and convene as the Extension and 4-H Service District Board of Directors. Gary.
Next public hearing is for the Extension and 4-H Service District. Item 1, approval of a resolution adopting and appropriating funds for the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget for the Clackamas County Extension and 4-H Service District and imposing and categorizing a property tax for tax year 2023-2024. Budget is $14,112,341 with appropriations totaling $2,424,190. Funding is through beginning fund balance, property taxes, intergovernmental shared revenues, and interest. No county general funds are involved. Sandra Montoya, Budget Manager, will present.
Thank you very much. On May 22nd, the Extension and 4-H Service District Budget Committee approved the fiscal year 23-24 budget in the amount of $14,112,341 and appropriated an amount of $2,424,190. Today, staff is recommending that the board hold a public hearing and consider adoption of the budget in those same amounts, and also impose a tax rate of 0.05 cents per thousand of assessed value on the property within the district, and categorize the taxes as subject to general government limitations. With that, we request a public hearing.
Do the directors have any clarifying questions or comments? I will now open the meeting for public testimony. In-person testimony is first, and I see no one in the room. Tony, would you please look at online testimony?
If you would like to testify, please use the raise hand feature and I will call on you in the order received. Madam Chair, I do not have any hands raised.
Thank you. I will now close the public hearing and ask if there's any further discussion. If not, I will entertain a motion.
I move we approve the resolution adopting a budget of $44,136,799.
Excuse
And
me. 14 million.
Second.
So that's a wrong.
did I just make another mistake?
I
did. I got ahead of myself.
Don't worry about it. Just restate the number, that's all.
Page 10.
Thank you. I am Okay, I move we approve the resolution adopting a budget of $14,112,341 and appropriating funds in the amount of $2,424,190 for fiscal year 2023 for the Clackamas County Extension and 4-H Service District, and imposing and categorizing a property tax in the amount of 5 cents per thousand in assessed value for tax year 23-24.
Seconded.
Director Savas has moved we approve the resolution adopting a budget of $14,112,341 and appropriating funds in the amount of $2,424,190 for fiscal year 2023-24 for the Clackamas County Extension and 4-H District, and imposing and categorizing a property tax in the amount of 5 cents per $1,000 in assessed value, tax value for the tax year 23-24, and Director Shaw has seconded the motion. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none. Tony, would you please call the poll?
Director Schrader,
Aye.
Director West,
Aye.
Director Shaw,
Aye.
Director Savas,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. I will now adjourn as the Extension and 4-H Service District Board and convene as the Clackamas County Development Agency District Board of Directors. Gary.
Next is a public hearing for the Development Agency. Item 1, approval of a resolution adopting and appropriating funds for the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget for the Clackamas County Development Agency. Budget is $44,136,799, with appropriations totaling $44,136,799. Funding through existing development agency funds, property taxes, revenue from bonds and other debts, and other revenue sources. No county general funds are involved. Sandra Montoya, Budget Manager, will present.
Thank you very much. On May 22nd, the Clackamas County Development Agency Budget Committee approved and appropriated a budget of $44,136,799 for fiscal year 23-24. This afternoon, staff is recommending that the board hold a public hearing and consider the adoption of the fiscal year 23-24 budget in the same amount and impose and categorize the maximum tax as subject by general government limitations. And in an urban renewal area, we don't identify the amount of tax rate. All we do is identify the amount that we need in total and ask that the assessors impose the maximum amount of tax, so we don't have to identify an amount.
Yes, thank you for that. Do the directors have any clarifying questions or comments? Mark? You good?
Yeah, Chair Smith, that description of how the tax is arrived at is very interesting. I don't have any questions then on that now, but I would like to learn more about that some other time.
Okay.
Okay.
And there's actually
Yeah.
a really simple explanation. If you think about the general obligation debt service that we do in the Clackamas County, it's the same thing. We have an amount that's needed, and so we give that to the assessors and we say, assess whatever is needed to get us this dollar value. So we actually give them the value, and then they back into the rate that is needed to get there. So it's the same with us, with the urban renewal area.
Okay,
Those are
thank
the
you.
only two that have that difference.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Any other questions? If not, I will open the meeting for public testimony. Take in-person testimony first. There is no one in the room. Tony, is there anyone online?
If you would like to testify on the Development Agency budget, please use the raise hand feature and I'll call on you in the order received. Madam Chair, I do not have any hands raised.
Thank you, Tony. I will close the public hearing and ask if there are further questions. I will entertain a motion.
I move we approve the resolution adopting a budget of $44,136,799 and appropriating funds in the amount of $44,112,799 $136,799 for fiscal year 2023-24 for the Clackamas County Development Agency.
Second.
Director Scholl has moved we approve the resolution adopting a budget of $44,136,799 and appropriating funds in the amount of $44,136,799 for fiscal year 2023-24 for Clackamas County Development Agency. Director Scholl has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, please call the poll.
Director Savas.
Aye.
Director West.
Aye.
Director Schrader.
Aye.
Director Scholl.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. I will now adjourn as a Development Agency Board and convene as the Library Service District Board of Directors.
This is a Library Service District public hearing. Item 1, approval of a resolution adopting and appropriating funds for the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget for the Clackamas County Library Service District and imposing and categorizing a property tax for tax year 2023-2024. Budget is $23,140,234 with appropriations totaling $23,140,234. Funding is through property taxes and other revenue sources. No county general funds are involved. Sandra Montoya, our budget manager, will present.
Okay, on May 22nd, same day as the rest of them, the Library Service District's Budget Committee approved a budget appropriating $23,140,234 for fiscal year 23-24. Staff is recommending that the board hold a public hearing and consider adoption of the 23-24 budget appropriating $23,140,234 and impose a tax rate of 0.3974 cents per thousand of assessed value on property within the district and categorize the tax as subject to general government limitations.
Thank you. Do the directors have any clarifying questions or comments?
I have one.
Go ahead, Commissioner Scholl.
Senator Montoya, the 39.74 cents per thousand, is that unchanged over last year?
Correct, that has not changed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I will now open the meeting for public testimony. I will take in-person testimony first. Seeing no one in the room to testify, Tony, is there anyone online?
If you would like to testify, please use the raise hand feature and I'll call on you in the order received. Chair, I do not have any hands raised.
I will close the public hearing and ask if there's any further discussion.
Yes, Chair, just wanted to just speak briefly, just for the record. When the district was formed, there was a purpose for the district and language in there which has come to light in the last several years that needs to be resolved. Legal counsel is aware of some of the, as well as the administrator, some of the concerns about that. I think we have a path, hopefully, towards resolving that issue, but I just want to flag it because it is about the purpose of the funds, as it's relative to the budget here today about the money. The district's doing a great job. This primarily is, the purpose is to fund operations and maintenance of libraries or augment operations and maintenance of libraries, and is doing a great job in just distributing those dollars out to the cities. So this district runs at a zero cost and runs very efficiently, and fundamentally, practically speaking, it's fulfilling the purpose that the district was formed on. So I just want to acknowledge that. We have a little bit of house cleaning to do here when ready, but I just want to make you aware of that. No impropriety involved here.
Thank you, Director Savas. I will entertain a motion.
I move we approve the resolution, hopefully I'm reading from page 12, adopting a budget of $23,140,234 and appropriating funds the amount of $23,140,234 for fiscal year 2023 for the Clackamas County Library Service District and imposing and categorizing a property tax of 39.74 cents per thousand and assessed value for tax year 23-24.
Second.
Director Savas has moved we approve the resolution adopting a budget of $23,140,234 and appropriating funds in the amount of $23,140,234 for fiscal year 2023-24 for the Clackamas County Library Service District and imposing categorizing a property tax of 39.74 cents per $1,000 in assessed value for tax year 2023-24. Director Schrader has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, would you please take the poll?
Director Schall.
Aye.
Director West.
Aye.
Director Schrader.
Aye.
Director Savas.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. I will now adjourn as the Library Service District and convene as Service District Number 5 Street Lighting Board of Directors. Gary.
This is a public hearing for the Service District Number 5 Street Lighting District. Item 1, approval of a resolution adopting and appropriating funds for the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget for Clackamas County Service District Number 5 Lighting District, Street Lighting District. Budget is $4,941,900 with appropriations totaling $3,170,956. Funding is through ratepayers. No county general funds are involved. Sandra Montoya, Budget Manager, will present.
Thank you very much. On May 22nd, the Clackamas County Service District Number 5's Budget Committee approved a fiscal year 23-24 total budget of $4,941,900 and appropriated a budget of $3,170,956. This budget keeps user rates within the district flat for fiscal year 23-24. Staff recommends that the board hold a public hearing and consider adoption of the 23-24 total budget of $4,941,900 and appropriating $3,170,956.
Thank you, Sandra. Do the directors have any questions or comments? Commissioner Schall.
Yes, again, I'd like to thank the folks from the Service District Number 5 for keeping the budget flat this year. I love to see that. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now open the meeting for public testimony. I will take in-person testimony first. I see no one in the room. Tony, is there anyone online?
If you would like to testify on Service District Number 5's budget, please use the raise hand feature and I'll call on you in the order received. Madam Chair, I do not have any hands raised.
I will now close the public hearing and ask if there are any further discussion. I'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve the resolution adopting a budget of $4,941,900 and appropriating funds in the amount of $3,170,956 for fiscal year 23-24 for Clackamas County Service District Number 5.
Seconded.
Director Savas has moved we approve the resolution adopting a budget of $4,941,900 and appropriating funds in the amount of $3,170,956 for fiscal year 2023-24 for Clackamas County Service District Number 5. It has been seconded by Director Schall. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, please take the poll.
Director Schrader.
Aye.
Director West.
Aye.
Director Schall.
Aye.
Director Savas.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. I will now adjourn as a Service District Number 5 Street Lighting Board and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners. Commissioners, we have a deviation in our script right now that I was just made aware of a few moments ago, and it involves a supplemental budget that we're going to try to address right now, and the reasons for that will be given. Gary.
Yes, thank you, Commissioners. Our staff do fantastic work, and they caught something literally this morning as you're having your meetings here, that we missed something that we need to address for a supplemental budget for the Clackamas County Clerk's Office. I know it's not in your script. I know that we haven't given you any materials, but if we do it now, we're still under the public notice that we've already provided for a supplemental budget for today's meeting. If you don't do it today, we're going to miss the deadline to do it before the end of the fiscal year. So I'm sorry, we don't have a choice. We have to do this. And so the amount, I'm going to read it to you real quick. So this is one second, please. All right, so this is a public hearing for Clackamas County General Government. It's approval of a supplemental budget resolution for an additional item greater than 10% for fiscal year 2022-2023, the current fiscal year. This is for the Clackamas County Clerk's Office in the amount of $350,000, which will be a general fund transfer to the clerk's office to accommodate for what appears to be a loss of revenue to complete the fiscal year. So that is what the hearing will be about. I'll call on Sandra or Elizabeth to give a little more explanation, please.
Please go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon. As Gary said, we feel horrible that this situation is happening, but we know that the clerk's revenue, due to the high interest rate environment that we're in, has really just tanked. So their recording fees have really gone down. And as we were assessing their numbers, and as Gary said, literally this morning, I received a notice, and whenever we're within 5% of a budget, of an appropriation, the system triggers a flag, and we have to look at it physically and override it. That's what happened this morning as we were sitting in this meeting, is I got a notice to look at the clerk's budget because
this meeting.
It was during the morning meeting, but it was after Clackamas. So as I was looking at it, I assessed and said, we've got a problem. It is in fact looking like this department will go over before the end of the fiscal year, which we've only got one more week. So it's very, very close, but it's enough that we have a chance to fix it because we're within 1 week of the year-end close. So the options are we let it be and you have a finding, an audit finding, when we close the year, which again is in 1 week, or because we are literally still in a public hearing, we could reopen that public hearing. Budget law does allow that if we've missed something, if there's an error, that we could walk that item in and fix it. And so that is what we're requesting today. And we did check with County Council, and Mr. Madcore says that is a legitimate option for us, and so we're presenting that as an option so that we don't have an audit finding. And the 350 is our estimate of what we will need, and so that's what we're presenting to you.
Thank you. Sandra, it's interesting to me how this happened. If we don't do that today, the results become mentioned in an audit finding, and is there a penalty if we don't do this?
The penalty or the process is we need to write an explanation of what happened and the resolution to the Secretary of State.
Okay. So whereas this is a surprise to all of us, how is it that we didn't know that this was going to happen? Were the numbers reported late to the budget from the clerk, or so it was the software that triggered the alert, correct?
Yes.
So I don't understand how that happens if the numbers were submitted whenever.
So in May, we actually took a look at it, and we estimated that that the clerk's office was running really close. Yeah. There was a discussion about the need for bringing a supplemental, but there's also purchase order. So the system takes into account actual expenses plus any contracted amounts that are potential to be expended. So it's basically a promise of expending if the services or the equipment is received by the end of the fiscal year. The estimate at that point was some of those purchase orders aren't going to materialize, so we may be okay. So this budget is very thin, and we may come back to you later and say, they didn't need it. That additional amount that we're proposing of $350,000, it wasn't needed at all, and they were able to get by within their appropriation. However, it's a potential, even if it went over by $1, we would literally be in an audit finding.
Okay, interesting. I'm sure commissioners have any comments. Commissioner Shaw, you're okay with? Yeah, I know this is a little bit uncomfortable, but any other comments from commissioners on this? Stephen Madcore.
Yes.
Commissioner West.
Sorry, just clarification, is the clerk aware of this, or your system automatically flags it, or what is her thoughts?
So the clerk was aware when we spoke in May. The clerk was not aware of what has happened today.
Okay.
I believe Elizabeth has been in communication with Michael Newgard, but I don't know that we've communicated with the clerk. Literally, this has been happening, I think this, in the last like 45 minutes is when all of
Okay.
this transpired.
Okay.
So I was just going to add, so I have been communicating with Michael Newgard, who's the business manager for the clerk's office, because one of the things that Sandra mentioned are the purchase orders. That's what we've been reviewing. We have $230,000 in unspent purchase orders, and we're not sure. We've been trying to identify, are we going to spend all those dollars? And then we have also the last payroll for the fiscal year. So we want to make sure that we're correct. I let him know that we're in the hearings now, but I've not communicated that we're going to go ahead and ask for this public hearing and request from the commissioners today.
Is my understanding correct that this $350,000 is above and beyond does that cover the purchase orders, or do we need that 350 to, that's more, can you explain that to me?
So what we've done is we've calculated what the expenses are to date. Then we've projected what we will need through the end of June. And in accounting, this is probably way more than you need to know, but the payrolls that are related to earnings for June, even though they will be paid in July,
Yeah.
accounting standards say we have to post them back
Okay.
into June. So we've even done a calculation for posting that back, and then we've subtracted those purchase orders that the clerk's office is saying they're not going to materialize. So we've tried to take in everything into account, and because it's just so razor thin, we're saying we feel that the county has taken a lot of steps to not get those audit findings, and so we want to preserve that record. We have 1 year of record of not having audit findings now. The recommendation is, let's take this action. Hopefully, we won't need it, but if we did need it, we would not have an audit finding because we've taken this action today.
Thank you.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I understand the situation, and I support staff's recommendation to resolve it today.
Thank you. Gary, I'm going to have you read the motion. Would you go ahead?
Yes. So the motion would be, I move for approval of the supplemental budget resolution to add $350,000 to the greater than 10% adjustment for fiscal year 2022-2023.
So moved.
But you need to have a public hearing first. I apologize.
Oh,
This is a
that's
public
right.
hearing.
Thank you. Yes, it is a little awkward without a script, isn't it? Yes, I will open the public hearing for this supplemental budget of less than 10%, correct, on the clerk's budget. I see no one in the room here to testify on that. Tony, is there anyone online?
If you would like to testify on this hearing, please use the raise hand feature and I'll call on you in the order received. Madam Chair, I do not have any hands raised.
Thank you. I will now close the public hearing. I will accept a motion. I will accept a motion from the motion that Gary just read.
I move, go ahead.
Chair, I move that I move to accept the motion as read by the County Administrator Gary Schmidt.
Second.
Commissioner West has moved we accept the motion as read into the record by County Administrator Gary Schmidt for the clerk's budget of expenditures of $350,000 from the general fund, and Commissioner Savas has seconded the motion. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, Tony, please take the poll.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes. Up next is public communication. This portion of the agenda shall be limited to items of county business which are properly the object of board consideration and should be nonpartisan in nature, as the BCC is a nonpartisan governing body under Oregon Revised Statutes and County Code. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes. Comments shall be respectful and courteous to all. As a reminder, you can email submissions for public communication at bcc@clackamas.us, and these will be accepted as part of the public record. I will now open the meeting for public testimony and take in-person testimony first. I see no one in the room to offer in-person testimony. Tony, is there anyone online?
I will begin with Mr. Donald Grice. Mr. Grice, please state your name and area of residence. You will have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Donald Grice, and I'm calling in regards to, I'm hoping that it's in the subject matter of what your meeting is currently about, and it's about the applicable zoning and development ordinance criteria for John Childs on Childs Road.
Go ahead, sir.
The proposal was saying that they wanted to have a home occupation to host approximately 60 events a year under the VDO Section 806. And it includes 55 events with a maximum of 75 guests per event and up to 5 events with 210 or more guests per event for a total of 60 events per year. And as residents who live less than an 1/8 mile away as the crow flies from their address, we are totally aware that at the bottom of this application, it says the zone is exclusive farm use, EFU. And I just wanted to voice our opinion on, we are totally against this event proposal that they plan to have at the property, only because we're already having certain problems with parties and events that are going on that the county doesn't even know about or maybe did. But I just wanted to respectfully voice my opinion on a no vote for this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Is it Christ? Grice. You know about this issue?
I think this is the one from the CPO out on Beaver Creek, that they're concerned about safety issues with the number of people coming out onto Childs Road and Beaver Creek Road.
Okay.
I thought it was a Childs Roads off of Stafford Road.
Okay.
Childs Road is off of Highway 213, and it's a severe problem already. There's no light.
Yeah.
What part of 213?
Right next to Karis Elementary.
Oh, I see. I know where you're at now. Okay.
And it's on a hill. Childs Road comes out. That's only another issue besides the noise issue. It is a terrible situation. I myself have seen close accidents happen right there. People just trying to turn right off of Childs Road onto 213. And I strongly believe that unless we had some really big development, like at least a traffic light there, there's going to be severe problems if this application goes through with 200 people coming through there on a day or even night, even worse.
Well, thank you for notifying the Board of County Commissioners. However, if you lived in 1/8 of a mile, you received a notice in the mail, is that correct?
Yes, I have
Okay,
it right
and
here
you know,
with me.
and in that notice, it explains to you what action that you need to take. I believe this goes to the county's hearing officer. Is that not correct?
Yeah.
And I would,
Correct.
yeah, I would suggest that you go ahead and submit your testimony. You can testify in person, or you can send an email.
Very good.
Thank you for notifying us.
Thank you.
You bet.
Appreciate all you do. You mean a lot to the community.
All right, thank you for calling in.
Bye-bye.
Tony, is there anything else?
If you would like to testify, please use the raise hand feature and I'll call on you in the order received. Madam Chair, I do not have any hands raised.
Well, I will now close this public communication portion of this meeting and move on. Gary, what's next?
Next is County Administrator update. I will pass on my report this week. So back to you, Chair.
Commissioners, we are now up for Commissioner Communication. Commissioner Scholl, you're up first.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Clackamas County. 3 quick things today. On 30 June at 9 a.m. at the Multnomah County Hearing Room, there'll be a hearing regarding the Portland Water Bureau project for filtration plant for the Cottrell area on the Multnomah side of the border. If you need more information, please contact the Cottrell CPO or send me an email at markshaw@clackamas.us, and I'll give you more information. For all the moms and dads out there who are looking for something to do this summer, I'd like you to remember Clackamas County Parks. We have over 12 parks in the county. They're absolutely beautiful. And for people who are in the region who want to get away and feel like they're 100 miles away from home, but maybe only 20 miles from your front door, please contact Clackamas County Parks on our website and look at the options you have for camping and picnicking and boating in Clackamas County. Also, I want to put a plug in for the North Clackamas County Parks and Recreation District. They have 32 parks. This is especially interesting, I think, to the people who live in the district. And if you haven't utilized these parks yet, please go to the NCPRD website and learn about the parks that you have available to you. And that's all I have today.
Thank you, Commissioner Scholl. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I will limit really my comments here today, but I do want to just point out something that's kind of been brought to my attention here late last week and even this morning, and that is that a number of our jurisdictions in the region, Clackamas County included, and West Linn in particular, last evening passed a camping ordinance which limits camping from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., I believe. Lake Oswego's done same. Other cities have done same. City of Portland's done similar. The concern that's been raised actually a while back when Portland first announced theirs was that that will probably force a lot of those people to migrate in other parts of the region or the city of Portland or elsewhere, north, south, east, west. Another thing that came to light here a couple weeks ago was the assumption was that only applied to people that were outdoor camping, assumingly in tents or on the street or sidewalk or parks or whatnot. But apparently it applies to car camping as well. If you're camped in an RV on the side of the road, it applies there as well. So it's come to my attention that that's a concern in Clackamas County. I was alerted by that at a couple different spots in the county, of which I pointed some of that out to a couple of my colleagues, the administrator, this morning. So I think it raises the question that we ought to do in kind, something similar. I think it'd be irresponsible not to at least discuss it, Chair. So that's my comment, and I'm hoping we can do that sometime soon.
We'll take a look at the schedule, Commissioner Savas. Thank you for bringing that forward. Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that last night, Commissioner Savas and I were at the North Clackamas Chamber of Commerce where they had their awards dinner, and their new board was reinstated, I think. I don't think they had anybody new. They have new installed, yeah. And it was a great evening, wonderful food, and I think it's one of our better chambers. You know, they're not really miffed at us, but we did take their executive director away from them, but they have a really great new executive director, and Laura Edmonds is now working for the county in economic development, and Jay is the director of the North Clackamas Chamber of Commerce, and he is absolutely phenomenal. So let's welcome him and keep going to our local chambers. The other thing I wanted to mention, I visited Teledyne Fleer, a leading design and manufacturing company, on Tuesday. They essentially serve government, defense, industrial, and commercial markets. They started in 1978, and they have almost 300 employees here at the Clackamas headquarters, but about 3,000 employees globally. So they started here. In Oregon and Clackamas County, they are now a traded sector international company. One of the highlights was seeing their focus on quality improvement and communication. They call it the kata process. Essentially, they have rolling dry erase boards throughout all of their floor shops for their employees at all levels to solve problems together to support their bottom line, to build worker morale, and find efficiencies for products for customers. And I don't have the little card with me. I haven't dug it out yet, but I have that little card with me because I'll show it to all of you. It's a way of really kind of using scientific method to problem solve. It's an iterative process where they go through a bunch of questions, and then at the end they go back to this question. So they kind of have a good way of analyzing what they're doing, how they're doing it, and it gives the employees on the floor an opportunity to help innovate with their important products. They create technologies for emergency responders. They helped out with our wildfires in 2020 with their infrared thermal technology, and last week they just rescued a German Shepherd that fell down on a cliff on the Oregon coast. So they also supply our military folks and do a lot of work with the Department of Defense. The other thing I learned, and this is my workforce question, is that since COVID, they don't have as many applicants, but in their construct and their corporate culture, they provide fitness facilities and flexibility for working families and on-site training for their technical positions. I asked them about childcare, because that's going to be my next comment, and two of the folks that were there who are high up in the company said yes. They themselves have had issues with getting adequate childcare, so having a flexible schedule for employees is a very important piece of what they do for the company. So I thought that was great. They work with about 50% U.S. minority and women-owned small businesses for their supply chain. They care about our community and their partnerships, and they're really greatly innovative, wonderful business. And as I kind of tour around the county trying to visit as many businesses that will let me in the door, I'm hoping it'll help inform our economic development strategy in the long term with this. Okay, the next thing I want to remind folks, and I would invite all my colleagues to come, our workforce board has pulled together a conversation about childcare, and it's called Childcare in the Private Sector, Profitability and Prosperity. So what we did was invite business leaders and decision makers, not just from the advocacy groups, because there are folks out there that really think this is an important thing, but also to hear from the business community about who has innovated, who does have childcare on campus, how that works for them, how they become an employer of choice, and getting that information to have a larger conversation. We're going to have the moderator is Peter Lund, co-founder and CEO of Somos. Gillian Brune is the director at the Siemens Child Care Center. She's going to come talking about what Siemens does. We have Erin Cornell, Director of Health Services, the Roseville Senior Living, and then HR toward rewards, tech and payroll. Daimler Trucks of North America. So Joshua Lee is going to be on the panel. So actually, I'll be honest, it seems that this has kind of gotten to be a big deal and a big thing. I guess Hillsborough has gotten aware of this, and they actually helped sponsor the event, because one of the things they're finding out as we go after CHIPS dollars is that one of the requirements is, or one of the, I think it is a requirement, I haven't read it thoroughly yet, is that they want the larger companies to actually provide childcare on site. So they're coming because they're going to see, well, what are you guys talking about? We will also have Greater Workforce Inc. there, and that is our partner organization that is the Portland regional area for workforce. And it is, folks, I hope you can all come, or I'll bring you a long-winded report. It's June 28th, 8:30 to 9:45 a.m. at Clackamas Community College, the Oregon City campus at the Gregory Forum. So let all our businesses know, and I think it's going to be a pretty robust conversation. So that's all I have. Thank you.
We have a work session scheduled right after that.
We do, okay.
Yes, we do.
All right.
We have at 10 a.m. Secure Real Schools, and then short-term rentals, and then a planning session at 1, and but you said it was at 8:30 to 9.
8:30, yeah.
Well,
I'm gonna
we
have
need to start promptly at 9 because we have some heavy lifting in that morning.
Okay, so probably what I will have to, I'm helping to introduce folks, so good,
that's
I'll let
fine.
you guys know, and then I will come back with a full report.
Okay.
Okay.
Commissioner West.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Savas, thank you for bringing that urgent issue forward regarding how we're going to manage public camping and the complexities of that within the region. You showed some very telling photographs, about, some ongoing issues with that and how are we going to work with our local jurisdictions or cities as we navigate that. That is an issue that we are going to have to continue to wrestle with. Along those lines a little bit, I had, I believe, a really fruitful opportunity to go out by the Veterans Village and meet with the different businesses right adjacent to the Veterans Village. There's the Trust Company, Precision Trust, quite an amazing, impressive operation they have there. There's also Amen, which is the nonprofit for veterans that does quite inspiring and brilliant work. If anybody in this listening wants to give money to a great organization that really does grassroots important support for veterans, Amen is fantastic. And then we also got a chance to start building a relationship with the auto body shop that's right there, and the owner of that. Things at the Veterans Village are quite inspiring, going quite well, but there are some things that we do need to address that we learned about. And that we need to make sure we're on top of. And so Emily, our staffer, was with us. She staffed the meetings. She did a fantastic job. Commissioner Scholl and I started to kind of do that due diligence. During the turnkey debate, Commissioner Schrader brought up a point about the commissioners also have to get out there and meet with these businesses and be kind of the face of these projects and build those trusting relationships. And so we are starting to do that, to see where we can grow and develop and continue to provide essential services to people. But it was a great experience to sit down with these partners, these business owners that were sharing what's really working, what they really like, their engagement, and then still some of the things that we can continue to do to improve. And it's always just built, and I think they appreciated that. We're going to continue to do that outreach, continue to speak with them. They know how to get a hold of Commissioner Scholl, myself, and Emily. So we'll probably bring back, as we continue that work, some more information to the board. So spent some time doing that. And I look forward to what's happening next week. I just want to say we did it. We did it. We got through the budget process, and I know that there was a lot of, just so much work and collaboration on this. And so I just want to thank everybody. Once again, Wilda Parks, you did an amazing, she's not here with us still, but she did an amazing job chairing the budget committee. To all of the community members, they bring a different lens and perspective and quite a bit of expertise. And I look forward to moving into the new budget year and getting through my first county budget process. It was quite an experience. So with that, that's all I got this week. I look forward to talking to the residents in public meeting next week. So moving forward.
Thank you, Commissioner West. Yes, I am grateful that we were able to pass the budget. It's very important work. I think it sets a tone for many years ahead on what we're looking at and our adherence to core county services. And I think many commissions in the past have funded items or programs or whatever out of the general fund, thinking that the general fund would always be sustainable to a certain point. And I'm just thankful that the staff took a deep dive into the budget and was able to come up with the budget that we have today. We had a Gladstone Library groundbreaking yesterday afternoon. Yeah. It was very well attended. Commissioner Savas and Schrader spoke at that. And there was popsicles served.
Delicious.
Delicious. And what a fun time. There's a lot of kids running around and a lot of community members who've been very supportive. And I know we just can't wait to get that building up. Last night, I attended the Providence Willamette Falls Foundation Board Medical Center Gala. I was invited, and it was just a wonderful time of community members, board members who serve on the foundation board, and they raise money for buildings. And as we know, all hospitals are at capacity. A very good presentation was given at Willamette Falls on the capacity. They have built a new cancer center there, and the bottom floor is still vacant as of yet, but they need more beds, and they're still figuring out the details and the logistics behind that. They would also like to expand their emergency room beds. They currently have 20. They would like to expand it to 36, and are figuring out how to do that. They've also expanded more hospital beds. They've taken out some of their surgical rooms and put in hospital beds, but they also have bought an interesting device, and I think it's called either Rose or Rise, and help me. It's a robot that replaces knees and hips. And very interesting, and the word is that the recovery for the patient is much, much faster. And then I got to thinking, well, an artificial hip and knee is pretty much all the same. I'm thinking it's all the same procedure. It's not. Well, maybe that's why they're doing it. So, yeah, well, that's what it was kind of presented. So, so they're doing that, and I think it's an interesting way medicine is heading out. They also have a new MRI machine, faster and better. So they're making really good investments with what they're doing. And the Willamette Falls Providence nurses are not on strike because they settled with them a year ago. So going forward, it's the other Providence areas who are in bargaining and negotiation on that. But it was a really good time. There were a lot of community businesses there, members, and just one of the nicest crowds, frankly, I've been around in a long time. Very heartwarming. Seeing no further business before this board, we are adjourned.